Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Izuku was framed as UA's traitor part 1. If you guys enjoy this what if and want to see part 2, comment down below and let me know before I start. Please do support for more awesome content and leave a like, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also share this video with your friends and check out the description in my playlist. The author of the story Zekket from Wattpad. So let's start the video. Izuku had ups and downs in you. But none of them were bad enough to being incapable of getting over it. But as of now, nothing could compare at what he will endure. Izuku woke up, just like every day. He went for a bath and brushed his teeth. Last night was a special day for him. He has been dating 𝗬𝗧𝗃 for a week now. Although the most they did was hold hands, last night, they finally shared a kiss, although an awkward one, a kiss nevertheless. He thought that his relationship took another step, his class already living in the dorms because of the accidents that kept happening. To ensure their safety, they had to move into the dorms. It was a weekend, so no school for him and his class. Leaving his dorm at 8:30 to see everyone is still sleeping since no one was on the couches. Looking to his left, seeing 𝗬𝗧𝗃's door being opened. Must be with the girls. He thought, coming closer to the door, only to hear something rather intriguing and rather frightening. "Man, your kisses are better than Deku's," exclaimed 𝗬𝗧𝗃. He thought he misheard it. Coming closer to the opened door to find out, he wanted to believe he heard it incorrectly, but the words echoed in his mind like a blazing fire. "Be quiet. What if he hears you?" Another person was inside her room. It only took him a few seconds before he realized who that person was. 𝗵𝘃𝗲. Izuku ratted, although saying it quite loudly, but somehow, they didn't hear it. "Ah, come on, it's the weekend, I bet he's still asleep," 𝗬𝗧𝗃 exclaimed. "Now let's take it a step further." Izuku heard something being thrown onto a bed. He knew what they were going to do. He didn't think. He rushed inside her room. And there he saw it, a half-naked 𝗬𝗧𝗃, who was taking her beer off, and 𝗵𝘃𝗲, who was undressing Oswell. Horrified at the sight, he interrupted their fun. "Are you serious?" He shouted at the two, getting their attention. Turning their heads swiftly behind, they saw Izuku. Deku. Both exclaimed surprised. Before 𝗬𝗧𝗃 could mutter a word, he exited the room. "Wait, that," said 𝗬𝗧𝗃, quickly putting her clothes back on. "We could talk about this," she shouted, but nothing could get into his ears. He doubted it at first, but once seeing it, he lost it. Locking himself into his room, he felt his tears running down his eyes. "Why?" he thought to himself, gripping his face as his emotions were on the limit. "I thought we had something going on." The fun times they had echoed in his head. The kiss they had was the main one, only to realize it was literally nothing to her. "Izuku, please," 𝗬𝗧𝗃 shouted, knocking on his door vigorously. "I'm sorry." She shouted once again. Suddenly, the door opened. 𝗬𝗧𝗃 saw his face, watery, sad and broken. "Dek, shut up." She tried to talk with Izuku about what he had seen, but he quickly interrupted her. Although Izuku is too nice for his own good, he definitely doesn't want to date a cheater. "What's all this noise?" The students were woken up by the knocking and shouting. "Just leave me alone," said Izuku. Yet again he wanted to cry, but managing to control it, he had enough. "But, leave me alone." Shouting at the top of his lungs, he had enough. Once she got the message, Izuku closed his door. Did 𝗬𝗧𝗃 get dumped? They thought, not knowing what just went down. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 came out of her room, looking at his classmates, who were surprised at what just happened, and seeing 𝗬𝗧𝗃, who fell down to the ground, crying emotionally. "𝗬𝗧𝗃." The girls came to her aid. "You okay?" asked Momo. "I'm fine," she replied with tears in her eyes. She went to her room, also locking herself in. Not knowing what happened, not seeing 𝗵𝘃𝗲 coming out of her room. But seeing such a scene, they knew he dumped her. But of course, not knowing she cheated with 𝗵𝘃𝗲, their blame was fixed on Izuku. "Izuku, the hell is wrong with you?" The girls shouted next to his door. Trying to open the door, but only to realize he had locked himself in. "It's locked," Mina shouted. "Don't worry," said Momo, creating a key. And with that, they unlocked his door. Rushing into his room, seeing the All Might posters. First time seeing his actual room, they could only say one thing: he's an All Might fan. They thought, but looking at Izuku, who on the bed on the verge of an emotional breakdown. "What are you doing?" he said in a depressed tone. He stood up and asked them politely to leave him alone. "Please leave." Just as he said it, Momo had come up to him, raised her hand, and slapped our little boy. "Why did you do that to 𝗬𝗧𝗃?" she asked furiously. "Yeah. Why the hell did you do that?" the other girls asked in unison. "I don't know, ask 𝗵𝘃𝗲, he replied. "What does 𝗵𝘃𝗲 have to do with this? Don't blame others." Mina replied with venom. "She cheated on me." Izuku barely muttered those words. Obviously, the girls were shocked to hear 𝗬𝗧𝗃 cheating on him, but of course, they were biased. What? 𝗬𝗧𝗃 would never do something like that. The first one to defend 𝗬𝗧𝗃 was her best friend, Momo. "That's why I told you to ask 𝗵𝘃𝗲." The girls, somewhat biased, left his room and ought to seek for 𝗵𝘃𝗲. Once seeing that 𝗵𝘃𝗲 was right outside Izuku's door, they asked him, "𝗵𝘃𝗲, what did you do?" They asked. "I didn't do 𝗧𝗏𝗃," he replied with his usual aggressive style. Taking his no for an answer, all that's left is to ask 𝗬𝗧𝗃. Checking if her door was unlocked, it wasn't. Momo yet again created another key and barged into her room, seeing 𝗬𝗧𝗃 crying on her bed. They thought of Izuku, hating him for what he had done to her. "𝗬𝗧𝗃?" the girls asked. "Just leave me alone," she shouted back. "What happened with you and Izuku?" Momo asked. "Nothing really, you saw it, he dumped me," 𝗬𝗧𝗃 barely replied. "He said you cheated on him, that's not true, right?" Momo asked. She knows her friend, she would never do something like this, but the truth is already there. Looking at the back of the girls, seeing 𝗵𝘃𝗲 giving the sign to shut up. "That's right," she replied, getting 𝗵𝘃𝗲's message. Momo was furious. "Izuku, you son of a bitch." Momo cursed, which even surprised the girls, but they understand, seeing their friend being heartbroken like that and knowing the cause definitely infuriates anyone, even thought it's a big fat lie. Izuku locked his door once again, not thinking much on how they unlocked it. Laying down on his bed, thinking about life and 𝗬𝗧𝗃. Why would she do this, was what he wanted to know. But this was suddenly interrupted by his door breaking down. Seeing Momo and the rest of the class barging in his room. Only for Izuku to get up and get slapped by Momo. "So that's your excuse?" she shouted at Izuku. What?" he asked dumbfounded. Falsely accusing 𝗬𝗧𝗃 of cheating. Izuku was dumbstruck. Just what the hell is going on? What do you mean?" he asked her. "You honestly think it would have worked? What the hell is wrong with you?" Momo was ready to slap him again, but to everyone's surprise, he caught her hand in mid-movement. "What's wrong with me? Do you honestly think I would just break up with her without seeing everything myself? I woke up early and saw her door was opened. I went closer and that's where I heard 𝗵𝘃𝗲 and 𝗬𝗧𝗃 talking." He was furious, getting cheated, and already, the class is blaming him. "I barged into her room and that's where I saw it. 𝗬𝗧𝗃 half naked on 𝗵𝘃𝗲." Izuku exclaimed. The next second the class turned to 𝗵𝘃𝗲, hoping for answers. "Don't look at me. He's lying to the bone." 𝗵𝘃𝗲 shouted. "I loved her. You honestly think I would lie about something as cheating to break up with her?" Momo was furious. Of course she would take 𝗬𝗧𝗃's and 𝗵𝘃𝗲's side of the story. Creating a pole with her quirk and hiding Izuku in the stomach. He felt it, letting go of her arm and falling down holding his stomach. "You honestly think any of us would believe that? I know my best friend. She would never cheat. I can't believe you." 𝗵𝘃𝗲 was holding a small grin on his face. Izuku lost his girlfriend and his friends because of him. In his mind, this was payback for hiding his quirk from his during childhood. And with that, Momo stormed off, and his classmates followed. "Dude, not cool," said the red-haired boy Kirishima. "Seriously, Izuku, this is so low," said the smart-ass of Class 1A Lida. "Just leave," replied Izuku. Once they left, he tried closing his door. He couldn't since Momo broke it. Broken just like Izuku. He couldn't even think properly. He didn't just lose a cheating girlfriend, but also his friends as 𝗬𝗧𝗏 even persuaded it like it's his fault. All he did was regret everything. If he hand peeped on 𝗬𝗧𝗏, none of this would have happened, but what's there to do when everything already happened? If God is real, then he hates me. Muttering to himself is all he could do. Crying so much that there's wet stains on the ground in his bed. Heartbroken as he lost 𝗬𝗧𝗏, lonely because he lost all of his friends, lost as having no idea how to fix anything. Although there's no school, the cafeteria was still open. He was hungry already, he had no choice but to leave the room. As he reached the cafeteria, he saw all his classmates sitting down at where his class usually sits, trying to make 𝗬𝗧𝗏 feel better. "Guys," said Todoroki, pointing at Izuku. They all turned at Izuku, giving his mean glares. He let out most of his emotions a few hours ago, but still felt horrible. Grabbing his food while the class is still giving him glares. "I hope you're happy, Izuku," said Mina aggressively, but silently. Although Izuku heard it, he ignored the glares and everything directed to him, sitting down far away from them. Eating his food with a depressed expression, his eyes lifeless as a cooked fish. He actually thought he turned over a new leaf after entering you. But everything went down the drain just like that. Again on the verge of crying. "Yo Izuku," said Mirio, startling Izuku. Seeing Ниjiire, Mirio and Tamaki sitting down right near him. "What's with your class? They have been giving you mean glares since you arrived." "That's Mirio." "It's nothing," he replied with regret. "What if tell them and they also think I'm lying?" Izuku thought. I didn't take a long look at Izuku, seeing his tear marks all over his face. "It's definitely not nothing. What happened?" asked Mirio, but more seriously this time. He forgot that Mirio is almost as smart as his brother. "I caught 𝗬𝗧𝗏 cheating on me, yet she somehow convinced my class into believing I made it up just to break up with her." Izuku told them the story. They gasped in disbelief. Sure, they have known him less than his class, but just the few days they have been friends they already know he loved 𝗬𝗧𝗏 dearly. Plus, it's a fact that Izuku would never lie about something as fake catching his girlfriend cheating. "So you have it that rough," said Mirio, expressing his sympathy, while so did Ниjiire and Tamaki. "I can't believe this," shouted Momo. "They're buying his story, unbelievable." She ratted once again. "Lying to others, that's so unmanly and low," said Kirishima. "So, you believe me?" asked Izuku. The trio, who were confused by the question, gave out warm smiles. "Of course we believe you, Izuku." Izuku, who was again on the verge of crying, yet this time it was because of happiness. "Thanks guys," he let out a warm smile. They relieved Izuku, those words sparked some life back into his eyes. "Just remember we're here for you," said Ниjiire, hugging Izuku. That caused a slight blush on Izuku. "Well, I ate everything already, I should go," said Aizu, standing up and waving them goodbye. To him, they made his day better, at least a bit. "You think he'll get better?" Tamaki asked. "It will take time, but he'll definitely get better," said Mirio. But they were interrupted. Izuku's class saw everything go down, and now, they are coming their way. "Can we help you?" Mirio asked aggressively. "What did Izuku say to you?" asked Momo. "I think you should know, you guys were spying on us," exclaimed Ниjiire. "Whatever he told you, he's a lying scumbag." Momo instantly replied. "It's a lie in your frail eyes. To us, he was telling the truth," said Mirio, surprising Izuku's classmates. They stumbled back. "You all know Izuku more than we do, yet we can tell that he wasn't lying," said Ниjiire. "Do you honestly think Izuku would do something as lying about catching his girlfriend cheating?" Tamaki said, What? We all know 𝗬𝗧𝗏, and she wouldn't cheat on Izuku. He's the one in the wrong," said Momo, once again protecting her cheating friend. "That's right, Izuku is just a selfless prick, he need to apologize to 𝗬𝗧𝗏," said Tsuyu. "And what? So he apologizes and what? 𝗬𝗧𝗏 might forgive him, but what about you? We can already tell nothing much will change if he apologizes." Mirio asked the class. "But why apologize to something that isn't his fault?" Mirio added. "How is it not his fault? He dumped 𝗬𝗧𝗏 and blamed her for cheating." The girls added. That's her side of the story, not Izuku's. If you all trust Uriarika's story more than his because she's a better friend to you than Izuku, then I guess we trust Izuku's story because he's our friend. The trio stood up, having finished their food, but before leaving, Mirio gave his classmates a message. Let me warn you, once the real truth comes out, don't expect Izuku to forgive you so lightly. The real truth. The class knew he hinted that Izuku's story is the real one. They think that even if Izuku is right, a simple apology will suffice, but if they tried putting themselves in his shoes that wouldn't be the case after the chit-chat with the big three. He somewhat calmed down, still broken, but still a bit better, going into his room and lying down on his bed. He put on earphones on to see if music might help him relax. To which it did. KK to the school gates. I still can't believe you made it to you. A short man with red hair stood right near the school gates. His face looking so feminine that anyone would think he's a girl. Let's surprise him again. Although the dorms became a thing to ensure the students' safety, their friends or family can visit them, which Izuku's brother has been doing. But they didn't ask for his name or last name. Izuku just showed Nizu his photo and gave him permission to visit him during the weekends. Is it because they trust their students or just being plain stupid? No one knows. So, his brother was just taking in the view of you, but always surprising him by how big it really is. So he ventured to the school. Although A is big, he didn't get lost as he already had knowledge of where Izuku's dorm is. He reached the dorm, hearing chit-chat right behind a wall. He saw the students chatting. But what he saw wasn't what he expected. Izuku's girlfriend Uriarika was crawled up like a boulder while the girls tried their best to relieve her. He did think that Izuku would probably do the job better since, well, being his girlfriend, but he was nowhere to be seen. His brothers stopped peeking from the corner, coming out for everyone to see him. What's with those faces? He thought. He definitely felt hatred in most of the girls' eyes and expressions, yet with them looking at him, it felt like it wasn't directed to him. So it didn't take long to figure it out. The mean glares, no Izuku, eyes filled with hatred, he dumped Uriarika. Where's Izuku? He asked. He's in his room, replied Ojiro. Yet again, he felt his reply was an aggressive one. What happened? He asked in a serious tone. His words bursted out. He did have a feeling at what just happened. Your brother, that's what happened, replied Momo aggressively. What did he do? He asked intrigued. He lied about Uriarika cheating only to break up with her. That insolent prick. Momo now he knew to who the hatred was directed to, his brother. Sure, he might have understood that he would break up with her because things didn't work out, but lying about cheating. To him, Izuku isn't someone who would do that, heck, even capable of doing it. I doubt he would lie about something like that. Izuku's brother replied with honesty. His brother was a little overprotective. If you're Izuku's enemy, you're his enemy. But turns out he did. We know Uriarika well, she would never do something like this. Momo ratted. He has to apologize to her. Being his brother, you should make him realize what he did is wrong. She ratted again. That's right. Being his brother, it's your responsibility to make him understand his childish actions. The blue-haired glasses having but said, doing his air arm motion or whatever the F you call it. He wasn't even the slightest bit amused. Izuku's classmates who last time he saw, he got along with them pretty well. But now, it feels like they would even attack Izuku if they see him. He was having none of it, clenching his fist and his expression changing from a neutral one to a serious one. Is that your excuse, Momo? He asked, scaring the students by hearing his tone. This might have worked with others, but you're literally asking his own brother. What? Momo asked confused. You believe in Uriarika because why? He said, waiting for Momo to finish. Because she's our friend and we know she would never do something like that. Hearing that reply from Momo, he smirked, although still having the serious expression. Same logic applies for me. He replied without batting an eye. A confusing answer to them indeed, same logic as to what? I've only met Uriarika a few times, and you expect me to believe in her and not my brother, who I have known his entire life. Momo and the others couldn't mutter anything else to try and protect Uriarika. What he said is true, they all know it. He noticed they couldn't argue anymore, turning his head swiftly and going to Izuku's room. Seeing the door was broken confused him. Upon going inside, he saw his brother laying in bed having earphones on. Izuku's expression didn't look that sad. Getting support from the three people really did help, but still, his brother could easily tell that the expression was a fake one. Izuku noticed him. Every time he came to visit, Izuku would always smile at the sight of him, even going for a hug. Yet this time it was only a small smile, barely considered to be one. Taking off his earphones and greeting his brother hesitantly. He tried to hide everything. "Hey," said Izuku, trying to hide his negative feelings. "Bad time to visit." "Well," Izuku barely replied. His brother sat down on the bed, patting his back to make him relax. "I already know you broke up with Uraraka, just tell me what happened." He should have known he would know. His brother is definitely way too smart. "I saw Bakugo in Uraraka's room, about to do you know what?" Izuku ratted. He actually felt disgusted by mentioning her name. Izuku was at least happy he could get this out of his head to another person who wouldn't just believe him, but would know he is telling the truth. "So yeah, I broke up with her, yet somehow, she persuaded into others believing I falsely accused her of cheating just to break up with her. For someone not to only lose their girlfriend, but their friends because of a lie, is excruciating. Maybe, I should just apologize and hope for the better, even if it's a lie." Izuku teared up. Seeing Izuku in such a mess, his brother felt bad for him. Sympathy, if you will. But that wasn't the only thing he felt. "I definitely understand how it feels to lose everything over a lie." His brother stood up, patting Izuku's shoulder in hopes of relieving him. "But, what you should never do is apologize for something that isn't your fault," he exclaimed with a smile. "I know it hurts to live like this, but trust me, they will find out the truth, even you." It was weird, even you. Izuku knew his brother was a very smart man, so he took it as a metaphor or something. "I'll visit you tomorrow, so don't worry." Waving for his little brother goodbye, leaving his room in success. That really helped Izuku. He gained some of the confidence back, yet only a smart part. It's still something. Heck, he even got a little energetic. His brother leaving the dorm, eyes falling on him from the students, he brushed them off as he didn't have an ounce of care. All his care was pointed at Izuku, and visiting tomorrow might be a must. But rules do say that you can only visit only once per week and only during the weekend. Taking a visit to the principal's office as to ask for permission. Hello," said 𝗎𝗍. He had looked at his uniform, only to notice that this man isn't a student. "Must be a visitor, right?" 𝗎𝗍 asked politely. "Yeah, I'm Izuku's brother," he replied. "I know the rules say I can only visit once per week and only during the weekend, but Izuku's not having the best time." 𝗎𝗍 felt honesty in his words. He's a true brother of Izuku's in 𝗎𝗍's eyes. "So, you want to visit him tomorrow, is that right?" 𝗎𝗍 asked. He nodded. 𝗎𝗍 didn't mind that. A brother taking care of a brother is a good way to strengthen their relationship. But knowing Izuku well, what could he possibly need help for? "Well, I don't mind that. The staying limited time is still the same." That's all he had to ask for, taking his leave. As for 𝗎𝗍, he was somewhat fixated on him. Scratching his head as to some reason. Why does he remind me of someone? So yeah, Izuku wasn't doing that well, but at least his brother's visit helped him gain some confidence back, even having a sudden energy boost. Suddenly wanting to work out, he left his room. Seeing some of the students on the couches hanging out, he ignored them and tried to go outside. Of course, he couldn't but just notice the intensive glares from the students. He just shrugged them off, leaving the dorms to train. Each class has a personal gym and training area, so Izuku of course only could go to his one. Going to one not specified for your class is not allowed. He was hesitant of course, opening the door, only to see some of his classmates working out. Bakugo, Kirishima, Sato, Momo and Mina gave him angry glares upon seeing him. Izuku understood that it indicated he's not welcome here, closing the door. "Guess I'll go for a run," he eagerly said. He left the school's area to go for a jog. He has been jogging for a while now, even having his own route memorized at the back of his head. So he started running. He thought that training will help him keep a clear mind, but God nope. Everything flashed in his head. The life he has to go through of a single lie is enough to make anyone depressed. Izuku was no exception. But there are people who want to help him, Mirio, Tamaki, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏, and his brother. He held the tears, running as fast as he can go so the pain drowses his head, hoping the thought will go away. It didn't, but he still tried, but it still hindered in his head like there's no tomorrow. Before he realized it, he already finished his route at a new personal record. He had a timer on, but he was astonished at what he saw. Knowing the distance of his route and doing calculations of the time, he was running at a world record 𝗵𝘃𝗀𝗄𝐾 used. What? Scratching his head at the disbelief, while also breathing heavily as he ran as fast as he can. But, for some reason, he feels like he could go for way more. Mostly, when the pain is too big enough, he would stop training and that's it. But this time, the pain he is feeling is exceptionally high, yet his body is begging for more. He thought that this was the reason why the thoughts didn't disappear. It's like his body doesn't care about pain anymore. He wanted to go for another round to see if this feeling is true. Oh hey Izuku. He was shocked at the voice for some reason, turning his head swiftly, seeing long blue hair. Oh hey, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏, Izuku replied, waving at her. He was trying to hide his depression. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 ran up to him with a worried face. You okay? She asked him. She knew Izuku wasn't having an easy life as of today. Izuku couldn't even muster the courage to look her in the eyes. Yeah, he replied hesitantly. The tone of his voice was already a dead giveaway that in fact, he's not fine at the slightest. You don't have to lie, you told me already. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 replied. Izuku just stood there. He did tell her, what was the point in lying to her? All right. Izuku replied. It was weird reply to 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏's eyes. Let me ask again, are you okay? Disbelief, isolation, heartbroken, lost, sadness was what he was feeling. Yet all he could reply was this, not really. I lost all my friends and my girlfriend. I just hope this F-up world doesn't give me something else to get depression from. Izuku ratted. That hit different for 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏, first time she heard his cuss. Although 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 never experienced something like this, she definitely knows something like this would put someone on a breaking point. You still have me, Tamaki and Mirio. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 tried to relieve Izuku. What everyone expects from hearing something like this is a pat on the shoulder. Izuku was no exception. But to his surprise, she didn't do that. What she gave Izuku is a hug, a warm hug. For a few seconds, the negative thought disappeared. Once the hug ended, he was in awe. A pat on the shoulder would have helped some bit, but the hug helped a lot. The hug ended, seeing 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏's huge smile also helped. Thanks, Izuku cheerfully replied. A smile formed on Izuku. His one word of gratitude already had a noticeable change in his speaking. A smile so innocent it made 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 blush inside. So, wanna go back to school? She asked, slightly blushing. Izuku would have definitely accepted, but for some reason his urge to run was too high. He couldn't control it. I still have to run, sorry. He replied. Although 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 was slyly disappointed, she didn't mind it. Waving Izuku a goodbye as she started flying to the school with her quirk. Izuku's surprised at what's happening with him. The urge to train is something different. Beginning to run at full speed around his personal route, no matter how big the pain was, no matter how tired he was, his body was begging for more, in a way, that scared him. Back to his class, they were chilling on the sofas. Most of them finished their training and wanted to hang out. Seeing their teacher, Aizawa, coming in, they greeted him. Aizawa-sensei, what are you doing here? Lead asked. I'm just here to give you the test results. Aizawa said, seeing him holding pieces of paper. To his view, it looked like everyone is here, calling their names to give out the papers. There were mixed reactions, some were happy, some were sad, some had no reaction whatsoever. Midoriya. The last piece of paper was Izuku's, the students glancing at the rest result, seeing a full 100%. Midoriya. He asked again. He's not here. One of the boys in the crowd replied. Where is he? Aizawa asked. They don't actually have no idea where. We have no clue, it's been hours since he left. Leader replied. It's 1949 already, School gates are going to close very soon. We did see him going to the gym but left instantly, said Mina. Naturally, Izuku checked his room, only to see he isn't here. That made him think he's outside of you. A territories. Jesus Christ. Some bystander said. All this time, Izuku was running to his heart intent. Look at the sweat, my God. The bystander said again, looking at Izuku. He was a sweaty mess. The sweat was dropping as rain from his body, his clothes already soaked in it. The bystanders were looking at Izuku. They have never seen such a malaise. On top of that, there was a whole puddle of sweat beneath Izuku. He was breathing heavily, too heavily. What the hell is going on? Izuku thought to himself, he can't understand anything. It didn't matter what pain I was in, for some reason, I still wanted to run. He thought, it's like he was posses to train. Looking at his phone, he had realized he has only a few minutes before the school gates close. He said as he started running back to school. Each step felt like stepping on a needle, yet he didn't mind it, running as fast as he can with all the strength he had left to school. He ran back to school with all his might, but by his calculations he probably won't make it. But still he had to try, running at his fastest. He felt like his leg bones would break at any second, yet he still ran back. He made it just in time before the school gates close. Screaming a silent victory as he headed back to his dorm to take a shower. He could barely walk as of now, his legs almost giving out from every step. Upon reaching the corridor, they finally gave out. But just in time, he fell on the wall, barely holding himself up. Why did I go to such an extent? He thought to himself. Never in his life has he ever been close to such a feat, which kinda made him happy and unhappy because of the pain. He looks forward, seeing a teacher coming out of the corner. The teacher was minding his own business, but once he turned left, he saw Izuku pretty much holding himself on a wall. Izuku. The teacher ran up to him. Hey Izuku-sensei. Izuku replied. His voice did give Izuku the hint that he's in pain. With no hesitation, Izuku helped Izuku get his balance. What happened? He asked. He noticed he was out of breath, taking him to the nurse to rest. He's so sweaty. Izuku thought. The sweatlets were dropping on the ground and on him. Opening the door, only to be greeted by Chiyo, the school's nurse. Oh hey Iza, she stopped in mid-sentence seeing Izuku holding Izuku. Without thinking, they put him on a bed to rest. What happened to him? She asked while putting Izuku on a bed to rest. Seeing Izuku's face, she understood he doesn't know Oswell. She noticed he was breathing heavily, which was a bad sign for her. Her quirk lets her heal others, but the healing factor just doesn't come out. Of nowhere, it takes the person's stamina and uses it to enhance a person's healing process. He's breathing heavily and he's sweating profusely. She could only come to the conclusion that he has a very bad cold. Don't worry, inhales, I'm fine. He barely uttered. What happened to you? Chiyo asked. I ran too much. Becoming a pro hero isn't something that just comes to you. No matter how gifted a quirk you have to train hard to become one. Izuku knows this very well, but to hear that Izuku is in such a state only by just running completely baffled him. No wonder All Might likes him. He has the willpower and the determination to become the #1 hero. Izuku thought, although cold to his students, he respects them, some less and some more, but the one he barely respected was Izuku. The reason being that he's in a relationship with 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏. He understands having friends at school, but not a relationship. For Izuku, it's unnecessary, it hinders one's work of trying to become a hero. But that wasn't the case here in Izuku's eyes. His respect for Izuku reached heights bigger than anyone as of now. Hour later, after resting on the bed, he finally became better. Getting up, his feet still sting a little, but capable of walking. You feeling okay? Chiyo asked worried. Yeah, thank you. Izuku replied with a cheerful smile. But the smile didn't fool Chiyo. She knew something was up. She felt a lot of feelings hidden under that smile. Izuku left the nurse's room, only to meet Izuku behind the door. You alright? Izuku asked. Yeah, my feet still hurt a bit, but I can walk now. Relieved that Izuku is fine now, he exhales quietly. By the way, I got your test results. pulling out a piece of paper and handing it to him. "I do have to say, nice job, the second best only got a 91. Aizawa knew Izuku is smart, but not smarter than Lita and Momo getting a 90 and Lita a 91, while Izuku just swept them by getting a perfect 100. "Yeah," he replied hesitantly. What Aizawa expected of Izuku was to be happy he got the best grade in the class, but all he saw was a sad Izuku. Izuku walking down the corridor and going back to his dorm, Aizawa remembered what he saw today. "Uriarika," Aizawa called. She went and grabbed her test, only getting a 63, which was a pass. She usually has bad grades, but this one is a surprise in Aizawa's eyes. Thinking she would be happy, but that not being the case, she grabbed the paper and went back on the sofa, not muttering even one word. As of now, he made the connection. They broke up. "Izuku, did something happen?" Izuku came to a stop hearing those words. Nothing happened, he muttered those words silently, there being complete silence in the corridor. Aizawa heard it. Izuku then again started walking back to his dorm. Aizawa knew something was up and mostly related to Uriarika, but not wanting to make Izuku uncomfortable, he didn't ask anything else. Izuku ventured forward into his dorm, thinking about everything. He's at least happy that his brother is visiting him tomorrow. Upon reaching his dorm, seeing his classmates on the sofa hanging out, trying to clear his mind of his negative thoughts, taking his gaze of the students as he heads back to his room to take a shower. But only to be stopped by some of the girls, seeing Uriarika standing in the back having a sad smile. "She's still doing it," he thought. The boys stood up from the sofa, coming near the girls with their arms crossed and with serious expressions. He had no idea what was going on, and it's not like he wanted to know. "What?" Izuku asked, trying to go to his room. "Listen, everything could go back to the way it was if you just apologize," said Momo. The boys and girls had serious looks on themselves. "For what?" asked Izuku. "For lying to everyone and breaking Uriarika's heart," said a boy in the back. Although it looks like Izuku is over everything, he actually isn't. He wants everything to go back the way they were. Heck, he kinda wishes that he didn't see what happened with her and Bakugo. Izuku looked like he would apologize, but what you should never do is apologize for something that isn't your fault. His brother's words echoed in his head, pretty much it sealed the deal. Giving out a small chuckle, surprising everyone. Apologize for what? The class was dumbfounded by what he just said. Apologize for lying to everyone. Momo ratted furiously. "Yeah, it's bad to lie, right?" Saying it sarcastically, but at the same time, he was looking at Uriarika dead in the eyes when he said it. "Of course it is, you idiot. Last chance, apologize," Momo ordered. "But apologize for what? I didn't do anything." Izuku was having none of it, using his one-for-all quirk and jumping over everyone. "The only people who should apologize is Uriarika and Bakugo," saying it with calm yet serious tone. Going into his room and closing the door with force. So Sunday came, not having any idea what to do, all he decided was to go for a run. Opening his broken door only to see most of his classmates are already up relaxing on the sofas. Some people are early, he thought, trying not to fix his gaze on them and passing them without saying a word. His goal for today is to find out what happened to him last night. Such a drastic change, yet having no idea as to why. Leaving his school's area, he was eager to experience it again. To Aizawa, something was on his mind the entire day. What happened to Izuku? He knows it's something related to Uriarika's breakup, but his gut feeling is telling him it's not that simple. The best place to start. Asking his classmates. Oh boy, so Sunday came and Aizawa had the entire day to himself. Although relaxing in his caterpillar bag is what he does every time, he wants to help Izuku any way he knows how. Although he can't just boldly ask his students what happened to him when Izuku's around, so the best thing to do is ask when he's not in the picture. Fixing his gaze on a window as something caught his eye. Bingo, he saw Izuku leaving the school's area, presumably to run, he thought. This was a perfect time to ask. Although it was quite early, he knowing himself that most teenagers do tend to wake up way later in the morning during the weekend, but he wanted to check if some of them have woken up. Going into class 1A dorms, He was actually surprised that most of them already woke up. The students noticed Aizawa's presence, greeting him as always. "What brings you here at such an early time, teacher?" asked Lita. Although thinking if he should ask this, he was already too far in. "Can you tell me why is Izuku acting so strangely?" The words came out of his mouth. The happy atmosphere between the students suddenly changed after hearing such a question, which was a surprise for Aizawa. But it proved something they know as to why. Momo stood up. "It's as if she always involves herself with Izuku. Teacher, he broke up with 𝗬𝗧𝗏." The venom in her voice was already a sign that much more happened than a simple breakup. How did it happen? The students were confused as to why he was so curious with their ex-relationship. Momo stumbled back hearing his curious question, getting angry. Because that loser blamed her for cheating with Bakugo. Words that Aizawa never heard came out of Yorozu's mouth made him even more curious. Blaming her for cheating. That's absurd. That doesn't sound like Izuku. And Bakugo cheating with Izuku's girlfriend. That definitely sounds like him. Out another thing, the students believe this story rather than Izuku's. No wonder he's like this. He felt sympathy for Izuku. Losing all of his friends over a lie must feel horrible. In Aizawa's mind, he thought that the reason he was so tired last night because of running must be his way of relieving stress. But something clicked in Aizawa's mind. Where did it take place? Aizawa asked. Momo, stumbled by the question, replied. School. Aizawa now knew it's possible. If it happened at school, then he thought. When did it happen? He asked again. Last night. He heard what he needed to. Without saying a word, he left the dorms. The students lifting their eyebrows as to why he came here for such weird questions. Brushing those thoughts out, they started to hang out again. Don't worry, Izuku, you're going to be fine soon. KK to Izuku last night was a weird day for him, but today he wanted to find out what happened, experimenting by running as fast as he can. But the catch is he couldn't find out anything. Not because of not enough data or something. There was no data, his body was the same as before. That feeling of wanting to train more wasn't coming. He would have ended his running how he usually does, but he wanted to experience that feeling yet again, so he ran a bit more. But it wasn't coming, gasping for air and stopping his running entirely because of the pain. He felt it, the pain was nothing compared to last night, yet his brain was sending out signals, begging to stop. Not thinking about it much, he went back to school. Brother's gonna come soon, he thought, remembering he told him he'll come today. Opening his bottle of water to chug it all down because of the thirst. Wait, ain't that the same kid who was a sweaty fountain a day ago? Oh yeah, guess his quirk makes him a sweaty freak. Those words of bullying from the civilians clicked something. Those sentences made him mad, yet calm at the same time. That sweaty freak could bust your butt easily. Glaring at the civilians with a smirk on his face. Unknown to Izuku, but he was changing. It was your typical group of 4 thugs hanging around taking a smoke. And you know how it goes, one wrong word and they lose it. One of them replied, dropping his smoke on the ground in a way to look more badass, to which it made Izuku chuckle. Angering the thug even more, he came up to Izuku. Being a few inches taller, he was glancing at his head from above. If you say, I can't hear you from down there. His fellow companions shared a laugh. You said something. I can't hear you from up there. Izuku fired back at the thug, making him even more angry. But what's worse, his fellow thugs did the OSHT. It was the moment where the thug lost it, not wanting to look weak in front of the other thugs. He clenched his fist and waited for the moment. Izuku looked at his right hand. He knew what he was trying to do, glancing to the left as if he wasn't paying attention to him. Gotcha, the thug thought, clocking his punch right at his nose. But it didn't connect. Izuku moved to the side, activating OFA 6% and punching the thug straight to the stomach. The OFA 6% punch is strong enough to damage most normal villains, but for a simple thug, it was even more deadly. The thug spat out some saliva mixed with BLD, being punched back to his fellow thugs unconscious. Anyone else? He looked at the thugs with the eyes of a killer. That punch broke some ribs. Izuku would have been worried if he did that to someone, even a villain, yet this time he doesn't give a slightest F. Starting to run back to school, he had no idea why did he do that. He was ashamed actually, He thought that the pain is unfair to him, others should experience it as well. Punching himself slightly in the face, he vowed not to do something like this again. Reaching the school's area, thinking he'll most probably spend the entire time in his room or go to eat at the cafeteria. A few hours already passed, so everyone's awake and outside of their rooms. Just as Izuku's presence was seen, everything changed. They didn't like what Izuku did last night. Trying not to mind any of them, he tried to go to his room, but it wasn't that easy. Someone grabbed his shoulder, and it wasn't a gentle grab. Unlike turning around as to someone grabbed the shoulder, he was forced to turn around by the hand, seeing it was Momo. Of course, Izuku sighed at the sight of her. "What do you want?" Izuku asked, uninterested. "We're still waiting for an apology." She said it loud enough for the whole class to hear it. "Yeah, Izuku, just apologize and everything will be the way it was," said Sato. Izuku glanced at Sato, rolling his eyes from what he said. "I told you, I'm not gonna apologize for something I didn't do." Pushing Momo's hand off as if he already had enough of her bullshit. "The ones who should apologize is Uraraka and Bakugo." And with that, he finished the conversation, going into his room to rest. Oh boy, if it was that easy. What Momo wants is to make Uraraka feel better, and the best way is to have Izuku apologize, that's what she thinks. Seeing Izuku not having a care about breaking Uraraka's heart, she got furious. Charging at Izuku with force as to hurt him, Izuku heard her steps getting closer and closer. Waiting for the moment to counterattack, he was stunned to see there was no need. Enough. Everyone saw Momo get wrapped up in some kind of white scarf, incapable of getting out. Hearing someone speak and seeing it was Aizawa made them frail in fear because his quirk was activated. "Aizawa-sensei!" Momo screamed. "Tell me, why did you attack Izuku?" Aizawa was coming closer step by step to her, but upon a closer look, they saw that he had a laptop in his right hand. Because he was making fun of Uraraka's broken heart. Izuku facepalms at her words of defense. "Momo, you became such a liar you can think of one in a second." Izuku chuckled. Momo grinned her teeth and didn't say anything else. "Alright then, Momo, what happened to his door?" Aizawa asked. "He broke it down himself." She pointed at Izuku in thought that Aizawa will believe her. "I think you forgot one thing, Momo." Curious as to what he meant, he pointed at the corner of the wall. Her eyes followed to where he pointed, and her eyes widened. What? She started to sweat profusely. Aizawa let go of her and placed the laptop on the table, before signaling for everyone to come. Once Bakugo and Uraraka noticed the camera, their hearts skipped a beat. They know they can't get out of this situation now. Aizawa did some digging and found out everything. So everyone gathered around near Aizawa and the laptop, their eyes glued to it, and what's about to happen was somewhat thrilling. Starting the video, they saw Izuku coming out of his room, seeing a happy smile on his face. Although the cameras have a high resolution, there's no sound, but at least we can see the faces clearly. Seeing Izuku marched forward into Uraraka's room, and seeing it was opened, his expression was that of a curious one. "So what? This doesn't prove anything about her," Momo preached, protecting her friend. Then a few seconds later, Izuku's face lost all color. The class was confused as to why, but then, Izuku just marched into her room. There's no cameras in their rooms, so some time passed before Izuku came back to the picture. Seeing Izuku on the verge of tears running back to his room, locking himself. "Now I'm starting to believe Izuku," said Sato and a few other boys. "Are you serious? This doesn't prove anything." If that wasn't enough, they saw the class coming out of their rooms because of the noise. They do remember this scene, but don't remember seeing Bakugo coming out of her room, and seeing his belt is untucked was a shock to most. "You were saying?" Sato teased Momo. She gritted her teeth at disbelief. As of now, some of the classmates were on Izuku's side, but mostly boys. Most of the girls still believe in Uraraka's innocence. "So you're taking Izuku's side?" "Boy will be boys," the girls said with venom in their voice. First of all, Bakugo came out of her room. Said Kaminari. "So what? They were probably hanging out," said Mina. "So they had to hang out in her room and not on the sofas. What would you think if your boyfriend had another girl in her room?" Kaminari angered the girls. to the point where they activated their quirks. Enough! Aizawa shouted at everyone. He stood up and walked to Bakugo. Tell me, what were you doing at her room? All eyes were fixated on Bakugo. The boys were waiting for an answer, while the girls thought they already know everything. We were just hanging out. Bakugo replied. Why? We were only hanging out. Uriaraka added. Stop protecting that green-haired idiot. He did something wrong and needs to apologize. Momo said to the boys. They're lying. Todoroki spoke up. Do you have any proof? Momo screamed back. I saw it in his eyes. Todoroki was mentioning the part where he ran back to his room on the verge of crying. His eyes tell me he saw something he wished he didn't. Never has anyone heard Todoroki speak with such brains. The hell are you talking about? Added Momo. Izuku's right. The ones who should apologize are us. Todoroki said with pride. Why should I be surprised? Boys are boys, always taking the side of their brothers. Rolling her eyes as she said it. Say what you want, Momo, we're taking the side of who think is right, said Sada. There's no proof that she cheated with Bakugo. And no one could prove it. The boys and Aizawa had enough of this farce of the girls. They shouldn't be surprised, talking about taking the side of Izuku cause boys will be boys when the girls take side of their girl Uriaraka. They didn't want to argue anymore, they just wanted for everything to end. Then it's a good thing I'm here. Unknown to everyone, Izuku's brother was here behind them. What? The girls thought. Thanks Aizawa, now that I know the specific time it happened, everything can be proven. Not knowing a thing he's talking about, the girls had to ask. My quirk is moment reconstruction. He said it with a smile on his face. Uriaraka and Bakugo thought they were safe, but another problem arose. The boys noticed Bakugo and Uriaraka go pale from those words. What do you mean? Aizawa asked. My quirk lets me depict what happened during a specific time and place for everyone to see. A perfect quirk such a situation, bringing smiles to literally everyone, the boys and the girls. Perfect. His own brother can prove it to everyone what scumbag he is. Aizawa showed him the exact time, but then he leaned to Aizawa and whispered something to his ear. His eyes widened a bit and a smile formed on him. Not knowing as to what's going on, but they were up to something. Girls, I think you forgot that I'm on Izuku's side. I know she cheated. So Uriaraka and Bakugo. He looked at them. Is it better to be caught in the act or just admit it right now? Yet again, the girls got furious. Wanting to say something to his brother, only for Aizawa to intervene. Uriaraka and Bakugo, you could say that you didn't do anything, but you have a choice, either admit now that you did cheat and everything will be fine. But if you still say you didn't, and we find out you did, you both are immediately expelled. Now it was the endgame. Looking at both of them, they had visible fears seen on their faces. It was a good scare, since they know Aizawa expelled a whole class last year, so it was a real threat. Without a moment's notice, Aizawa and Izuku's brother ventured forward to Uriaraka's room. Both Uriaraka and Bakugo were shaking. They don't want anyone to find out, but they also don't want to get kicked out of school. Aizawa opened Uriaraka's door. Screamed Bakugo. They got him, all right, fine. We did cheat. The words they wanted to hear came out of his mouth. As for the girls, they didn't like that one bit. No, you didn't. Right, Uriaraka. Everyone glanced over at Uriaraka. It was up to her, admit it or expulsion. At least having some common sense, she chose to admit it. I did cheat with Bakugo. Momo's face went pale. She was trying to protect her friend, but also she hated their relationship. She was somewhat glad it was over, but to see her friend in such a state made her furious. Momo fell down on her knees from the shock. She's my friend, she would never do something like this. Bullshit backfired right at her. The boys were glad the truth came out, but they still felt the guilt. All this time they thought Izuku was in the wrong, but turns out Uriaraka was. Imagining what Izuku had to go through made them feel remorse. Oh, by the way, I don't have a quirk like that. Izuku's brother let out a small chuckle. What? They asked. See ya. Waving them a goodbye as he left the dorms with a huge smile. In short, everyone found out that Uriaraka's the one at fault. Now what's left is to see how will his classmates react when they see him. The students found out everything about the breakup. Izuku wasn't the one at fault, but Uriaraka was. lying to her classmates as to not look like a cheating wear, but the truth did come out, so she can't hide it anymore. The only one who knew that Izuku's brother, 𝗵𝘃𝗲, was lying about his quirk was of course Izuku. And that lie worked to Izuku's surprise. He actually thought he will have to live like this the entire time he's at school, so he got used to it pretty quickly. But now he doesn't have to. The girls were still shocked at finding out the truth. They would be biased if it came out from 𝗵𝘃𝗲, but 𝗬𝗧𝗃 admitted everything herself. As for the boys, it didn't take long for them to admit they were so wrong. Izuku, sorry about thinking you were the cause of the breakup. The first one to apologize was Kirishima. His guilt as a man was quite high. Izuku smiled. Not only he was proven to be innocent, he already got an apology from someone right from the start. Kirishima had his head down the entire time. I hope you forgive me. It's not like he was expecting him to accept this apology, but his guilt made him apologize right here and there. Yeah, it's cool. Patting him on his shoulder as to signify his accept of the apology, he became friend again with Kirishima. To accept my apology after such a trauma, so manly. He thought, hoping to become such man as Izuku in the future. Not long after, the others started apologizing, but what I meant by others, I meant the boys. When all the boys apologized, not a single girl even approached him. Although having a feeling of how bad Izuku had it, Aizawa was happy to see everything was going to the right direction. By the way, no school for tomorrow. Those words shocked the students, but they were happy knowing they have the next day to themselves. Izuku somewhat knew that getting apologies from the girls will take a while, so he shrugged those thoughts off. What he couldn't shrug off was why did his brother leave already? Curious as to why, he called him. Hello. He got into contact with his brother. I know why you're calling. Actually, meet me at the entrance. Ending the call, Izuku forgot that his brother is actually hella smart. Not wasting a beat, he met up with his brother. So how does it feel? Your classmates now know the truth. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 turned around and gave Izuku a smile. It feels great, he replied. They went for a walk, talking about everything. In a way, they were bonding as brothers or half-brothers. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 looked at Izuku. His face told him he had something on his mind. Something on your mind? He asked. Izuku smirked after hearing that question. Yeah, he replied. What is it? 𝗵𝘃𝗲 asked. I doubt you'll believe it. Adding a little laugh at the start of the sentence made 𝗵𝘃𝗲 think of what it might be, but nothing came to his mind. Well then, blow me away, 𝗵𝘃𝗲 replied, taking a sip of a drink in his hand. Well, I have no idea how to explain it, but last night, my body somewhat changed, I think. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 raised his eyebrow from hearing that. Dude, Pita, not like that. Izuku kinda asked for it, but he finished saying what he wanted to say. What I mean is that my body was begging me to train or something. Last night I ran so hard I started sweating like a fountain and eventually collapsed. So Izuku cleared up the misunderstanding of what 𝗵𝘃𝗲 thought he meant. All that was left is to hear his reply drop. Izuku not knowing as to why, but 𝗵𝘃𝗲 dropped his drink. You okay? The dropped drink wasn't the thing that made him ask if he's okay, but his expression. He was in disbelief, but that actually doesn't sum up his face. It's like the reaction isn't because of disbelief, but more his reaction is like what Izuku experienced last night should be impossible. Not once has Izuku looked at his brother for that long, but something also did catch his eye. His brother is always in a hoodie, always, yet he might know as to why. Taking a good look at his face, he noticed his neck. It had quite an amount of scars. But something says he shouldn't ask, so he pretended that he didn't see them. Why yeah, I'm fine. 𝗵𝘃𝗲 finally replied. To Izuku's eyes, 𝗵𝘃𝗲 takes a look at the time on his watch. I have to go, I'm gonna be late. It was quite sudden for Izuku, but whatever. They say their goodbyes and part ways, Izuku going to school while 𝗵𝘃𝗲 is headed in the opposite direction. What was that about? Izuku thought. His life has been a weird one since now. As of now, his brother started acting strangely from hearing what happened yesterday. Plus, those scars were on his mind. What are those scars? 𝗵𝘃𝗲's face looks like he would get along with the ladies quite well, so it might have been hickeys. But Izuku's eyes didn't lie, those were definitely scars. Hey, Izuku. His thoughts were interrupted by a girl screaming his name. Turning his head swiftly to where it came from. Hey Nijier. waving back at her to signal that he heard her. They were both heading back to the dorm. So, who was that girl with you? She asked. Oh, that's my brother Baki. Half-brother, he exclaimed. No wonder you two looked so alike. Wait, he's a man. She was surprised it was a he. Yeah, he gets that a lot, said Izuku as he let out a small laugh. So, how's it been? She asked. Never could be better, he replied confidently. And why's that? She was curious. The whole misunderstanding was finally solved. My class found out what happened. Saying it in a tone of a child, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 understood he was definitely happy. Reaching the school, they parted ways, going into their dorms. Can't wait to tell it to Tamaki and Mirio. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 exclaimed. Everyone's going to be happy for Izuku. As for his brother, he's definitely happy. It just turns out there is a bigger matter on his hands to worry. Is that even possible? Baki exclaimed. Yeah, his father is that thing, but his mother 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗵𝗲 𝗧𝗵𝗃. How did this happen? Next day came, finally waking up not feeling like a turd. He did his usual routine and left his room. He knew that everything changed, so he wanted to go sit on the sofa and hang out with others since he finally can. What he did not expect was to see all of the girls waiting patiently near his room. And of course they were waiting for him. Surprised at the sight, he stumbled back, thinking the girls are biased as to what happened last night. He was actually on guard. One of them might pull a Momo and hit him in the stomach. Izuku, we're sorry for everything. The girls exclaimed. He could hear all of the girls' voices, except for Uraraka and Momo. Yet again he stumbled back at what just happened. He thought they would attack him or something, not give out an apology. But gradually, he accepted it with no further asking. It was the same as for the boys. The guilt was gradually rising inside of them, but they knew that the only way for the guilt to reside is to apologize. The girls were relieved he accepted it, even though of what they put him through. Izuku, being such a kind-hearted man, made them feel something else when he accepted it. When the apology was over, they sat down to relax. Izuku sat down in the sofas to relax. The others welcomed him with open hands. In a way, they were all biased he would accept their apology that easily. How are you feeling? Sato asked hesitantly. Of course Izuku was feeling great. These past 2 days weren't easy, but weren't impossible to cope with. I feel great. Izuku replied cheerfully. They were happy to see Izuku being so cheerful once again. Good to hear. Kirishima exclaimed. Gradually, the whole chaos against Izuku departed. The class was a normal classroom once again. I gotta say, if it wasn't for your brother's quick thinking, most of the girls would still believe Uraraka is innocent. Todoroki mentioned the part where Baki lied about his quirk. But what is his quirk? We have met him a few times when he visited you before, but we never asked him, Kaminari asked. Izuku knew he knew a lot about Baki, but now he's starting to doubt it. I don't know, he never showed me his quirk. Izuku replied with shock. To the students, the question intrigued Izuku as well. They could tell by how he replied. All I know that he is strong and has an insanely good physique. Izuku added. Although never seeing his physique, he definitely knows this. 2 years ago, Izuku accompanied his brother to the doctor's for a checkup. Baki said he heard himself. Waiting outside a room where Baki is being checked, he heard the doctor talking. It seems you're all fine, a doctor replied. That's good to hear, Baki said. The door was quite thin, so even closed Izuku could hear everything clearly. He was happy to know there's nothing wrong with him. But I must say, your physique is something of the likes I have never seen. The doctor exclaimed with curiosity. Even the doctor said that his physique is something he has never seen, Izuku added. He must have trained very hard, Kirishima replied. He had respect for people with good physiques. I kinda want to see it. When is he visiting next time? Said Mina. On the weekend. Izuku got weirded out by the question. What Izuku was happy about also is that he can finally train at the gym. So after a little chit-chat with his classmates, he went into the gym. He had a few questions that need to be answered. First is, why did his body beg him to train? He thought it might happen again. One way to find out if it will happen again. Said Izuku. His usual training time at the gym is 2 hours. 𝗬𝗵𝗃 if he's in a motivated mood. By some luck he finds out why it happened. He still has one more question. Those little thugs that provoked him not too long ago. Usually, he would have paid no attention to their taunts and usually just walk out like he didn't hear anything, but this time he didn't. Or more likely he couldn't. His body acted on his own and provoked the thugs to fight. Izuku knows he would never do something like that. Being primally focused on the first question in hand, what best way is to understand something than to experience it again? But just like last time, he didn't. That feeling wasn't coming. A little disappointed that he finished his training at 2 hours like always. All that's left for him is to go for a run like every day. While running his usual route, he had some theories of what it could be. Some were literal nonsense, some made a little bit of sense, but one was plausible. He awakened a quirk. If it's really a quirk, then you got to be kidding me. I heard late bloomers usually get a quirk a few months or a year later than others. Izuku thought. If it's true, I awaken my quirk 12 years later. He screamed at his head. If it really is a quirk, he would be happy if it was years ago. All he wanted was a quirk in life, and All Might gave him a chance, so for him to awaken a quirk now isn't something he is happy of. Still, it's only my theory, but the most plausible one, he thought again. His sense of thought was interrupted once he almost ran into 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗪. Oh, sorry, Izuku said. 𝗵𝗧𝗪 looked at Izuku, his demeanor and his expression were back to normal. Delighted that he is definitely fine, she smiled. Oh, nothing, it's cool, she replied. He is always delighted meeting 𝗵𝗧𝗪 and the others, but he's been meeting 𝗵𝗧𝗪 pretty much every day, and in the same spot. Do you always hang out around here? We run into each other pretty often. Izuku asked politely. 𝗵𝗧𝗪 blushed, but not enough for Izuku to notice. Well, why yeah. She stuttered. It was a slight stutter, only noticeable if you were expecting her to stutter, but Izuku did notice it somehow. He didn't think, he instantly understood. I'm experiencing it again, he thought. But this time it was different, not one where he wants to train, no one where he wants to fight, but he also didn't know what it is. All he knows is that her answer is a lie, he just feels it. Are you busy right now? She asked. Although he still needs to run, but he wants answers. I'm not busy, he replied. He now has a feeling on how this one works, because once he told her he's not busy, he could tell she became a lot more happier. They went for a walk. Izuku yet again could tell she's very happy being next to him, a little top happy. So, 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏 did apologize, right? She asked. Frankly, 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗧𝗏, Momo and Bakugo are the ones who haven't apologized. He said. Would you accept their apologies? 𝗵𝗧𝗪 asked again. Izuku didn't think about it much, but these 3 people are the ones who frankly hurt him the most. I would, probably except for Bakugo's, Izuku answered. In a flash, he felt her feelings changing, from happiness to jealousy. If she asked you to get her back, would you take her? 𝗵𝗧𝗪 asked. Izuku wasn't a one who is good at dating, honestly. It was luck that he got a chance with 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏, but this new experience made him understand 𝗵𝗧𝗪 even more. Of course I wouldn't, Izuku replied seriously. If Izuku wasn't so sure before, he definitely is now. Once he said that he wouldn't, she became insanely happy once again. He clearly understood what she was trying to find out, but unknown to her, Izuku knows as to why. She's in love with him. Usually, Izuku would think of other solutions. Thinking that one of the prettiest girls in school is in love with him is so made up. But there was no doubt in his mind that it was a false feeling. Good, 𝗵𝗧𝗪 tried to reply with a serious face. There was a moment of silence swindling near them. They locked eyes with each other for a moment. The way Izuku looked at her made her blush once again, but this time it was clear on her face. What is it, Izu? Like it was said, he was never good at dating. Mostly when dating 𝗬𝗏𝗧𝗏, she would be the one who takes action. The kiss they had barely to none romance in it. In a way, it was a kiss just to experience what a kiss is. But this new feeling, or his theory says his quirk did something weird to him. Yet again, his body took over and did the impossible. He kissed her, to both of their surprises. Holding her in a tight embrace, the kiss didn't stop as one of those barely touch the mouth kisses, it continued. 𝗧𝗑𝗧𝗏 was surprised at what happened, but to say she didn't like it was false. She tried to break free, but Izuku's grasp didn't let her. He was holding her gently, but strong enough to not let her escape. Her struggles weren't ones with full power where like someone is being kidnapped. She knew that she likes Izuku, but didn't think it would go this fast, so her struggles stopped as it started. In a way, she embraced it. Although not being a couple, Izuku achieved way more with 𝗧𝗑𝗧𝗏 than Uraraka, and in just a few seconds. Once Izuku understood what he had just done, he ended the kiss. To think that a 16-year-old pulled something like that on a senior was surprising, even for her. But just as Izuku got back to his senses, that weird feeling left 𝗬𝗏. Looking at 𝗧𝗧𝗏, he didn't need that weird power to tell that she wanted to prolong the kiss even more. He knew that he kissed her for a good time, he just finally got back to his senses to understand what he had just done. Izuku. 𝗧𝗧𝗏 said weirdly. Are we a thing? She said again. The tone of her voice was something he has never heard, but he knew what answer she wanted, or what answer he also wants to say. Yeah, he replied with a smile. With that, he got a hug from 𝗧𝗧𝗏. Once it ended, they went back to school. He has to thank this weird ability or quirk he has, because he does like 𝗧𝗧𝗏. But I must say, your physique is something of the likes I have never seen. The doctor exclaimed with curiosity. Izuku heard it. Underneath that hoodie he always wears, there's a very trained body in Izuku's eyes. Suddenly, he got the urge to go pee. Taking his ears off of the conversation between Baki and the doctor, he went to the toilet. The reason why this took longer than expected is because I checked your body for performance-enhancing drugs. Mostly for steroids, said the doctor. Baki didn't say anything, he just gave the doctor a glare. Sorry about that, I was just curious. The doctor replied. A body like yours is already an impossible feat for many, even for the ones who use such drugs. The doctor explained. I was a little in denial that a body like yours is achievable, so I had to check you. The doctor said again. But to think that I didn't even find single ounce of drugs inside of you, that begs me a question. The doctor couldn't stop talking. But before that, those scars, not even veteran soldiers who served their entire lives at war didn't have even a quarter of the same amount of scars on their bodies, yet an 18-year-old already has that many. How did you get them? Baki wasn't surprised at the doctor's curiosity. It's not like he's the first. By training, Baki replied casually. So it's not a quirk? The doctor asked. I have no quirk, Baki replied. Even people who only trained for the sole purpose to get a great physique, training every day non-stop, even longer than you have lived, weren't even close to achieving something as yours. But I can tell you didn't just train for a simple goal as getting a simple physique, did you? Doctor asked. Yeah, he replied. Those scars and those hands, you trained for fighting. Baki nodded to the doctor's claim. If you got this by training, that begs me a question: what kind of hell did you go through? Months have passed, and during the time, a lot had happened. Firstly, when Mirio and Tamaki saw Izuku and 𝗧𝗧𝗏 holding hands, they weren't surprised. All they wanted to know is who asked first. What they didn't expect to hear was Izuku straight up kissing her out of nowhere. They didn't think Izuku would be such a player. For his classmates, they found out when they were at the cafeteria. 𝗧𝗧𝗏 ran up to Izuku and gave him a kiss, which startled everyone. What the hell? Minato screamed. The boys knew that he was friends with 𝗧𝗧𝗏, but they were now envious finding out they are dating. The girls did feel happy that Izuku found someone who would actually not cheat and break his heart, but they were curious as to how he got one of the most appealing girls in school. Yeah, it just happened, Izuku exclaimed with a smile. It just happened. What kind of bullshit is that? Minato screamed. Everyone tried to imagine on how it just happened. By just happened, he means he kissed me unexpectedly. 𝗧𝗧𝗏 said. Everyone dropped their forks, slowly turning their heads to Izuku, wanting to know how he would have such ball to do something like that. Some of the girls turned red, imagining the romantic scenario where Izuku kissed 𝗧𝗧𝗏 and also imagining it raining for the effect. But Minato, he was trying to stab Izuku with a fork. Honestly, Minato wasn't the only boy who was mad at their relationship. Izuku had actually angered a lot of the boys in you. No matter if with 𝗧𝗧𝗏 or not, Most of the boys he saw would give him death glares. There was actually a time where a classmate of 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 had stopped Izuku in his tracks. Can I help you?" Izuku asked. The boy was 2 years older than him and a lot taller, so he was quite intimidating. "I'm gonna keep this short, stay away from 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏, he exclaimed. The tone sounded like a demand. He knew that some might be jealous of their relationship. Before Izuku could say a word, 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 came out of nowhere, hugging Izuku from the back. "Heya Izuku," she happily said. The senior's face had turned to anger, but he knows he can't unleash it on Izuku when 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 is around. The boy was a classmate of 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏's, and even she herself knows he has a thing for her. The time she has caught him looking at her was too many to count. By the face of her classmate, she knew it had something to do with their relationship. Without a moment's notice, she dragged Izuku from his view as to protect Izuku. She does know Izuku is strong for her age, but also knows that her classmate is also. Although he isn't strong as her, Tamaki and Mirio, he isn't that far behind. "Izuku, be careful, okay?" she asked. "What do you mean? Is it because of that senior?" Izuku asked. Izuku definitely felt that the student is strong, so he had a feeling. "Yes, he doesn't like boys talking to me, and you're my boyfriend," she said. Izuku got the hint of what he might do to him. The bell rang, signifying that classes have started. 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 gave him a warm kiss as before heading down to her class. Taking in the warm kiss, he was still perplexed at the fact he is dating 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏. My Izuku, I never thought you'd start dating 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 of all people." A man said. The voice was familiar, also hearing it come up from above of his head was already a giveaway of who it was. "All Might." Izuku fangirled. "I've heard what happened with you and your classmates, but it's good to hear that everything turned out fine," said All Might. Izuku felt like All Might is the father he never had. The 9 months of training he did under his coaching made him feel that way. "It's a little too late, All Might, he, that was 1 month ago." Izuku scratches his head. Hearing everything from Aizawa today, he thought it had happened today or a few days ago. "Really? Sorry about that. I'm always busy, so I couldn't help you out sooner," All Might exclaimed. Not knowing much about All Might's personal life, he has a feeling that a symbol of peace is always busy, so he understood. "Also, I heard Aizawa said you upped your training," All Might delightfully said. "Yeah, I have," Izuku replied. "That's great to hear. That means you'll get the hang of one for all even faster," All Might exclaimed. Once hearing one for all literally being said in the middle of a hallway, Izuku got startled. "All Might, don't speak about one for all that loudly," Izuku whispered to All Might. "Don't worry. Everyone is in class," he replied. Looking around to see if definitely no one is around, Izuku exhaled in relief. By how Aizawa explained, "Your training sounded to be on the same level as the one I made you months ago," All Might said. Izuku liked the praise he got from All Might, and it was true, he increased his training by a big margain. It's good to train your hardest. But try not to overtrain and get hurt in the process. Train smart, not hard," said All Might. Izuku this into account, Izuku forgot something very important. Classes started. Once realizing that he also has classes, he ran back to his class, waving All Might a goodbye. All Might looked at Izuku with a smile. He was proud to know that his successor is definitely worthy of his quirk. But that wasn't for long. "Toga, you ready?" a man asked. The man was entirely surrounded by a black-purple mist, also wearing an bartender's suit. "Sure, a yellow-haired girl replied. And so a fated day came. Months have passed since he started dating 𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏. He woke up early, since he has school today. Doing everything to maintain his hygiene, he took a shower, brushed his teeth, and took out a few granola bars to eat. Once ready, he left the room happily. But to his surprise, no one was hanging out on the sofas. Granted, it was only 7:20, but some of his classmates are already out right at 7 o'clock. In fact, it was complete silence. By such silence, you could hear others talking or walking even if they have their doors closed, yet he heard nothing. "Strange," he said. He waited for a bit to see if any of them come out of their rooms. But no one did. Walking out of his dorm and heading down to class, He messaged 𝗎𝗎𝗧𝗏. During those 2 months he had learned a lot about her. A few being is that she always replies to messages a few seconds after they were sent. Second is that she is always on the phone during such a time. Yet, after a few minutes, she hasn't replied to his message, or even seen it in fact. He got curious and confused at what's going on. Finally reaching his class, he yet again heard nothing. Placing his ear near the door to see if he could hear something, but all he heard was absolute silence. Opening the door to see if anyone is inside. He had the idea that today was a school trip or something and he completely forgot about it. But guess not, he opened the door and saw everyone inside. Izuku standing near his desk, all of his classmates at their desks, with expressions he didn't expect to see. The pressure inside was immense for Izuku, and he couldn't understand what is going on. Looking at Izuku, who had the expressions as if looking at a villain, same could be said for the other students. Guys, what's wrong? Izuku asked. Once he asked the expressions turned to anger, he clearly noticed the change in their demeanor. It's as if they wanted to punch him. Stop acting oblivious, we know what you did, Todoroki said. It was a calm yet serious answer to Izuku's question. Izuku was actually oblivious of what's happening. But for Izuku, those stares and expressions reminded him of what happened 2 months ago. Looking at Izuku, he saw he was on the phone with someone. Yeah, he's in class, said Izuku. Izuku ended the call with that one sentence. Mr. Izuku, could you tell me what happened? Asked Izuku. The only person who thought could actually explain everything was his teacher Izuku. But he got the same reply. Todoroki is right, stop acting oblivious, Izuku replied. Now Izuku was lost and scared. He was reminded of what happened 2 months ago, and he has a small feeling something the same might happen. Only if he knew it was way worse than he imagined. You really are going to act like you didn't steal documents? UF traitor! Kaminari screamed. Words spouted by Kaminari were filled with anger and disgust. A surprise was that he cussed such words, and yet Izuku didn't do anything about it. Traitor! What are you talking about? I didn't steal anything, said Izuku. A surprise came when Izuku engulfed Izuku with his scarf, making him realize this isn't a joke. Izuku, what are you doing? Asked Izuku. Izuku activated his quirk on Izuku, putting some droplets in his eyes for them to last longer. Holding you so you don't escape. Izuku almost screamed. But you have to believe me. I didn't do anything. Izuku pleaded. Unknown to Izuku, there is a reason why they are doing this. I would believed you didn't, but the video doesn't lie. Izuku was dumbfounded to think there is a video of his stealing some documents. Suddenly, 𝗎𝗎𝗄 and All Might came into the classroom. 𝗎𝗎𝗄 was holding a laptop in his hand, and All Might Izuku instantly realized he is different. No matter the situation, All Might always had a smile, yet not today. The one time he saw him without a smile was during the 𝗬𝗧𝗏 incident. But today he looked angrier than that day. 𝗎𝗎𝗄 All Might. You have to help me. They think I stole some documents. Izuku asked the two. Oh really? 𝗎𝗎𝗄 replied sarcastically. Placing the laptop on the Izuku's desk and opening it, revealing a video. It was a surveillance camera of 𝗎𝗎𝗄's office. Once a man came into sight of the video, all color from Izuku's face left, as if a soul leaves once a person dies. It was him. He was searching the entire room, grabbing some documents from 𝗎𝗎𝗄's office and leaving the proximity. But once the camera got a view of Izuku's face, it had a sick smile, like that of a murderer. That wasn't me. You have to believe me. Izuku pleaded. Yet they didn't believe him. The surveillance camera showed it all. In a moment's notice, 𝗎𝗎𝗄 put on anti-quirk bracelets on Izuku, shutting his quirk off completely. Dragging Izuku out of the classroom, he heard his classmates' last words said to him. Hope you burn in prison, you traitor. No wonder why 𝗬𝗏𝗏𝗏 cheated on you. I can't believe I dated a villain. Let's hope we never see him again. That little amount of faith he had left for it be a joke just left like it was never there. Having his head down the entire time he was dragged somewhere, he had lost hope. Tell me, All Might asked. Izuku looked at All Might, seeing the face of pure anger writ all over him. All this time you were the villain? All Might asked with venom. Izuku didn't care anymore. He was completely silent the entire time. I'll take it as a yes. That explains how they knew we were in 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏. Unknown to Izuku, they were dragging him into a room. As of now, I'm gonna take back my quirk, and you'll rot in jail, you villain, said All Might. Izuku was thinking, how will he take his quirk back? All Might had said it himself that it cannot be transferred or taken back by force. Once going inside a room in you, there was a man inside. The man was 𝗧𝗵𝗃 𝗵𝗄𝐻, a good friend of All Might, who also knows about One for All. So that's the traitor. Sit down, he said. Izuku sat down on the sofa, while the others watched him from afar. Izuku Midoriya, age 16 and the current One for All holder, said 𝗵𝗄𝐻. Izuku almost jumped out of his seat. Not many people know about One for All. What you hold is one of the strongest quirks, and it's also in the hands of a villain. 𝗵𝗄𝐻 changed his tone. The tone changed from good to bad in a split second. All Might trusted you with this quirk, yet you failed him. Complete silence from Izuku. That's why we need it back. The documents that were stolen were files of the teachers, students and the dates school trips, said 𝗵𝗄𝐻. The amount you stole averages to 10 to 25 years in prison, but we can make a deal with you. A talk about One for All and a talk about a prison sentence made Izuku clearly understand what the deal might be. We talked with the authorities. Either you give One for All back and you only get 2 years. But if you don't, life in prison with no parole, said 𝗵𝗄𝐻. Clinging his head back, and muttered, You can't do that, I'm underage. We have connections. Your choice, Izuku. Izuku had a lot to think. One for All is almost the sole reason of why he is still alive. If he does give back the quirk and finishes his sentence, no school would ever accept him with such a record. But if he does not give it back, he is sent to prison for life. He made a choice, and that is to give back the quirk. All Might plucked out a hair and ate it. Once it was over, they dragged Izuku out of school. Once near the entrance of 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗏, he saw someone he wished he didn't. 𝗵𝗧𝗪 wasn't alone. Mirio and Tamaki were also there. Both of them had the face of disappointment. As for 𝗵𝗧𝗪, she was crying, but also was filled with anger. Izuku knew what was about to come, but he wished it wouldn't. He already once again lost everything. 𝗵𝗧𝗪 marched forward, near Izuku, trying to mutter words out to her, only to be slapped in the face. All Might and 𝗵𝗄𝐻 were dragging him to his demise, but they stopped once 𝗵𝗧𝗪 came close. Izuku's cheek turned red from the slap, but he didn't even react to it. How could you? Said 𝗵𝗧𝗪. More tears fell down from her face. So all of this was just a facade. Even All Might and 𝗵𝗄𝐻 knew how she felt, but in their minds, it was Izuku to blame for everything. You played with my heart. 𝗵𝗧𝗪 screamed at Izuku. I didn't, Izuku said under his breath. You know what? Have fun in prison, it's over. With that, 𝗵𝗧𝗪 left Izuku, coming back to Tamaki and Mirio, who both tried to help her. Both of the boys glanced to Izuku for what he had just done. No words were said by them, but it clearly made Izuku understand what they wanted to say. Once the little ordeal with 𝗵𝗧𝗪 was over, they dragged Izuku out of the school's area. Both All Might and 𝗵𝗄𝐻 clearly noticed that 𝗵𝗧𝗪's breakup affected Izuku even more. Don't be surprised, everything's your fault, you villain, said All Might. Even All Might, who Izuku looked up to, started hating him to the core. To think I thought you were a perfect candidate for One for All even after those 2 years, you are never allowed to step foot in 𝗧𝗪𝗧 ever again. With that, All Might left the scene, only 𝗵𝗄𝐻 was left. Once reaching a black car, Izuku had to sit down and drive away. Looking back at presumably the very last time, so Izuku lost everything once again, but this time it was much worse. 𝗵𝗄𝐻 had brought him to the police, then he spent a few hours in a jail cell. Once it was over, he was given prison clothes and was escorted to a prison bus and went to his demise. He was told beforehand to which prison he was going to rot. Tartarus. Not much is known about the prison to the local public. The ones convicted and finally free had told that if you obey the rules, it's like a normal prison. But if you don't, you won't see to live another day. Most think they meant it as a metaphor, but in reality it's just as it sounds. Inside the bus, Izuku wasn't alone. Others were also on. Most had an emotional breakdown. Everyone thinks Tartarus is the worst prison to exist. Unlike the emotions of others, Izuku had none. He was completely silent, not making a sound, looking at the ground as if paralyzed from the shock. Once the bus came to a stop, he was ordered to leave by the guards. The first thing Izuku saw was a sign which read, "No warnings." He couldn't even care by what it meant. Although he's only staying here for 2 years, he lost all of his chances of becoming a hero. Once he head inside, he yet again saw those signs scattered all around. It definitely has some kind of meaning, but he doesn't care. On your uniforms, there's a number. That number is your jail cell. Izuku's number was 221, and looking around he saw that everyone had almost the same number as him. They were ordered to go to their jail cells, whilst looking around and saw that the entire prison is extremely clean. Once he got to his cell, he just laid down on his bed and began to rest. Few hours had passed, and they were ordered to come out. He saw everyone standing in a line, so naturally, he did the same. "You some of the earth. Be glad you even get food around here." A guard screamed. "If I had the right, I'd kill all of you right here and there." Naturally, no one liked his words, but most kept their composure. But of course, some couldn't. "The F did you call me?" A thug replied. "Say that again to my face, you fat midget." The difference in height and strength was already clear enough who would win. "I'm already stuck here for life, so there's no reason for me to hold back my desires to kill more." Of course, some like you can do whatever they please just because they are stuck here for life, right? Hell yeah, we can. Nothing can stop us anymore since nothing worse can happen to us. You must have seen those signs scattered all around the place, right? The no warning signs. Yeah, what about them? He spat at the guard right between the eyes, but to everyone's surprise, he wasn't even fazed one bit. That sign is a warning if you don't obey the rules, and you didn't obey them. In the midst of the conversation, the guard just pulled out his gun and pointed at the legs of the convict. Bang bang shots right at the legs. The convict fell down to his knees as his legs gave out from the pain. Of course, fear arose in his head as no matter the prison, not even one was heard where they can shot the convicts out of nowhere. And if you break those rules, that means we guards have every right here to do something like this. Pointing the gun at his head, and shot the final blow. Bang the convict didn't have time to even take a look at what was pointed to his head as it happened too fast. Of course, most of the new convicts were also here for life with no parole, so they thought they can do SHT here as they please, but the actions of the guard made them realize what those signs meant. Break the rules and shot without warning. Some had half-hearthed stances while they were called out, but once everything went down right near their eyes, they repositioned themselves in fear of getting shot. First day and already dead. Turning their heads at the sound, an obese man was right near all of them. Or they thought he was obese at first. They mistook him for a man suffering from obesity, but on a closer look they noticed his body was just composed of muscles. Wearing a simple t-shirt, his arm muscles were enough to frighten most of the convicts. Even Izuku realized he's something else entirely. Naturally, they thought it was just his quirk that gave him his muscles, but let them believe that thought. His name was 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗃. Although he is only 5 feet 11 inches, he weighs 150 kilograms of pure muscle. I can tell most of you thought you'd have it easy since most of you are here for life, right? He asked them. A little advice: obey the rules and you'll have it easy just like in any normal prison. He took a look at all of the prisoners to see how they look. Naturally, once in their eyesight, they looked away in fear of breaking some kind of rule. But one caught his eye to the guard's surprises. He's interested in him. For the guards, it was a common occurrence for Oliva to glance at the newly arrived prisoners, but none caught his eye. He looks familiar, said Oliva. What caught his eye was the green-haired Izuku. The longer he looked, the more his facial features looked familiar to two people. Kid, what's your name? Oliva asked. Izuku was also afraid to answer since he might get a fate similar to that person on the ground. Kid, you can speak. A guard reassured him. My name is Izuku, he barely replied. Your full name? Asked Oliva. Izuku Midoriya. His reply was a letdown for Oliva. He was expecting something else. You look familiar to someone and I can't put my finger on it. The guards were also intrigued of Oliva's interest, since no one, I mean one peeks his eyes, yet this kid did. 𝗎𝗍𝗂 didn't ask anything else, he just left the area as if he wasn't even there. Okay, go eat ya some. Following the trail of the others' prisoners, they stumbled upon the cafeteria. With just one glance most could realize that the cafeteria was surprisingly quiet. Even the sipping of soup could be heard even with that many people. Going into line, Izuku was given a surprisingly delicious-looking dish. Once he sat down and tried the food, it wasn't as good as it looked, but it wasn't bad either. The convicts sat next to Izuku noticed his emotionless expression. Once time was over, they were ordered to go back to their cells. You know what? Have fun in prison. It's over, even after those 2 years, you are never allowed to step foot in you. They ever again. This was all Izuku could think of. No happy times he had in you. No Sato's insane cooking, no happy times with Nijire. All he could ask is why? Grabbing the steel bars of his jail cell, he lost it. I didn't do anything. Who the hell impersonated me? Does my mom even know I'm in prison? It just happened so fast. He let the tears out as if turning the water hose on full power. He wanted to leave, he wanted his life back so badly that he'd do anything for it. Take your hands off the bars. Lifting his head swiftly, he saw a guard patrolling the area. Or what? You gonna shot me? Izuku would have let go in flash, but now it's different. Even if finishes his 2-year sentence, no school would accept someone with such a record, and Izuku knows this. He'd happily take a bullet to the head cause his suffering is reaching his limits. The guards saw Izuku's breakdown. Although he has the right, it's not like he has to. Although I have the right to do what happened to that guy a few hours ago, it's not like I have to. Just take it easy cause if some other guard would have seen that, they'd happily shot someone. Izuku listened and let go of the bars and went back on his bed. The guard was also a little interested. The stare Izuku gave him once he warned him was a first to him. It's like he wanted me to shot him. Taking a last look at Izuku's cell, he was baffled at what he just saw. What? The guard uttered. Clearly what he noticed is something inhuman, but what Izuku unknowingly did is definitely possible with a quirk. But the thing is, the guard clearly saw Izuku have anti-quirk bracelets pretty much glued to his hands, so he couldn't understand how he did it. Naturally, the only thing he could think of is to tell 𝗎𝗍𝗂 about this. But unbeknown to this newly assigned guard, 𝗎𝗍𝗂 was already interested in this prisoner. Being a warden of Tartarus, he easily could access information about prisoners, so that's what he did. What made absolutely no sense is that it said he was a student of 𝗬𝗧. It's not impossible to get in 𝗬𝗧. They only have the lowest acceptance rate, and pretty much most of the students of the hero course all became heroes after graduating. The impossible part was his quirk. Name, Izuku Midoriya Issei, male, date of birth. Imagine any date where he is still 16 years old. School, hero course expelled quirk, none. Being a prestigious school, they don't even accept quirkless people even in the study course. This doesn't make sense, he was accepted in the hero course even being quirkless. 𝗎𝗍𝗂 knew something was up. It doesn't matter if you are quirkless but born into a rich family which donated millions upon millions to you. They'd still decline quirkless people in a heartbeat. Excuse me, sir. A guard came into his office which interrupted his sense of thought. What? Make it quick. I'm busy. 𝗎𝗍𝗂 replied. Something happened in jail cell 221. He immediately recognized it was the jail cell of Izuku's. Now he was interested. What about it? You have to see it yourself. He already had plans to visit Izuku all about this, so 𝗎𝗍𝗂 wasted no effort and decided to check up on him now. By what the guard warned, though that Izuku wanted to get out or did something even more crazy, like killing himself. But what he saw wasn't what he expected. Although the entire jail cell was completely fine, the door wasn't. In a way, the door wasn't damaged, but the bars were. They weren't bent in unnatural positions, but still, the sight he saw was still intriguing and frightening. The door bars had 2 handprints embedded into them naturally. The prisoners couldn't have done this because of the anti-quirk bracelets, because the grip strength required to do something like that is comparable to 𝗎𝗍𝗂. He saw Izuku laying on his bed. He saw the wet stains on his eyes meant he let out his emotions. The first time he met him, he knew his emotions were swindling inside his body, and now they had reached their breaking point. What do you want? Izuku realized 𝗧𝗪𝗧 had come. 𝗧𝗪𝗧 felt the vibe around Izuku was different. He had a feeling about something. He tried to find out everything about Izuku, where he lives, his address, and his family. What he had found was only his mother, and not a single thing about who or what his father is. 𝗧𝗪𝗧 had a feeling of who his father might be, and the only person to ask was Izuku. I'm here to talk, said 𝗧𝗪𝗧. About what? Izuku asked. First of all, you got here because you were caught stealing documents, correct? Even if I said no, would you even believe me? Although the vibe about Izuku feels so much different than before, he can tell he wouldn't do something like that unless forced to. I would, 𝗧𝗪𝗧 replied. Then no, I was framed for doing that. 𝗧𝗪𝗧 isn't someone who can tell the difference between the lie and the truth, but he could tell that Izuku wasn't lying. The honesty in his voice wasn't a forced one. So you have it that rough. 𝗧𝗪𝗧 expressed his sympathy. Then another thing I'd like to ask is, how did you get into you? Without a quirk? A little surprised by his words, he replied honestly. Although Izuku a few days ago would try to make up an excuse to try and hide 𝗬𝗍𝗪𝗔𝗂𝗍𝗪's secret, there's no need anymore. 𝗬𝗍𝗪𝗔𝗂𝗍𝗪 gave me his quirk and helped me become a hero in the future, but not anymore. He took it back and sent me to this hole. An answer he wasn't expecting, an answer one would expect to hear. 𝗧𝗪𝗧 was a bit biased, but it does explain how he made it to you. All right, 𝗧𝗪𝗧 replied. One last question, do you know your father? No, Mom never spoke a word about him. Izuku replied. Have any idea how he could look? All I can say is he probably has green or red hair. Now 𝗧𝗪𝗧 was certain, if he hasn't heard a word from his mother on how he looks, there's no way he would have guessed that he has red hair, since his mother has green hair. Why do you think he has red hair? 𝗧𝗪𝗧 asked. My half-brother has red hair. That lit up a smile on 𝗧𝗪𝗧. He clearly knew to who he was referring to. And your brother's name? 𝗵𝗃𝗃. 𝗧𝗪𝗧 didn't need to hear more. He knew that Izuku would probably leave very soon. That's all I needed to hear. With that, 𝗧𝗪𝗧 left the proximity before uttering a few words to him. I'm certain you won't be staying here any longer. Izuku was a little confused by the statement, but took it as a sign of sympathy from 𝗧𝗪𝗧. Excuse me, what did you mean he won't be staying here any longer? The guard asked. I'm certain his father will get him out and there's no one on this world that could stop him. Wait, are you implying even 𝗬𝗍𝗪𝗧 couldn't? The guard asked. Implying that 𝗬𝗍𝗪𝗧 is even considered to be a worthy opponent to that man is already laughable. 𝗧𝗪𝗧 thought that it could take months, or even a year before his father knowed he's in prison. Little does he know that he already knows something is up with Izuku. His father and brother felt it. The rage of Izuku swindling inside his body activated his true power for a few moments. And on those few moments, they both sensed something wasn't right. The next day came pretty slowly for Izuku, and today his brother wanted to visit him since it was Saturday. Already near the entrance, he was trying to see what was this about. Going inside 𝗧𝗪𝗧's territory, the school gates closed shut, trapping Baki inside. You're not welcome here anymore. Seeing Aizawa, Nizu and 𝗬𝗍𝗪𝗧 standing near a building, he knew something was up. So something did happen to Izuku, said Baki. They didn't disclose Izuku's crimes to the public or his family yet, there's no way he should have known anything. And how do you know that? Nizu asked. Call it a brotherly bond if you will. In a way, they started suspecting Baki being accomplice because of his statement. But Baki didn't give a single F about it. Where's Izuku? I need to talk to him. Said Baki. You're going to have to come with us. Said Aizawa. Baki realized from the tone that he has come with them for a reason, presumably interrogation. All right, I will, but tell me where Izuku is. Baki asked. After you come with us. Said Nizu. He felt that he won't get an answer that easily, but he played their game. With that, he was escorted inside For safety, they handcuffed his hands with the same metal which nullifies quirks in case he tries anything. In reality, they now had plans bringing him to prison just because of that one statement he made. So something did happen to Izuku. Although it could be anything, they don't want to take risks. After interrogating him, they planned to send him to the slammer. In reality, they were trying to play 𝗲𝗊𝗍 for answers. But in actuality, 𝗲𝗊𝗍 was the one playing them. He was 𝗲𝗊𝗍 in an empty room where there was only a table and 2 chairs. He sat down and patiently waited for someone to come. A quarter of an hour later, 𝗬𝗍𝗍 and the detective 𝗬𝗍𝗍 came inside. 𝗬𝗍𝗍 sat down on the other side of the table while 𝗬𝗍𝗍 stood next to the door. With that, the interrogation started. Name? 𝗬𝗍𝗍 asked politely. 𝗲𝗊𝗍, last name? Not telling. 𝗲𝗊𝗍 replied. A little surprised at the response, he thought 𝗲𝗊𝗍 was an idiot. Don't tell me if you want, it's easy to find it once we know your name and how you look. Don't get me wrong, I'm not telling you for a reason. 𝗲𝗊𝗍 replied calmly. Oh. And why is that? A name is just a name. 𝗬𝗍𝗍 couldn't think of a reason why'd he try to hide his last name. That's something I'm also not going to tell you. Things were getting off course. This was an interrogation, not game of find the name. 𝗬𝗍𝗍 got his act back together and started asking the real questions. Nizu told me that you knew something happened to Izuku. Care to explain how? Asked 𝗬𝗍𝗍. First of all, why is it so important that I know that? Izuku's case wasn't disclosed to the public or his family, so it's a mystery on how you know it. Although the interrogation just started, 𝗬𝗍𝗍 let the cat out of the bag. You say it's a mystery, but quirks aren't. Excuse me. 𝗬𝗍𝗍 was confused. I have no clue what happened to Izuku, but I know for a fact that he's in pain. 𝗲𝗊𝗍 replied with hatred. What do you mean? That's my quirk. It lets me bond with a person and lets me sense their negative emotions. Said 𝗲𝗊𝗍. What they didn't know is that 𝗲𝗊𝗍 is a good liar. 𝗬𝗍𝗍 being a detective, he has faced people who lie to save themselves from trouble. But key factors in lying is that it usually has signs if it's a lie or not, such as being vague, shrugging, lack of expression, a bored posture, or even overthinking. But 𝗬𝗍𝗍 saw no hints of that in 𝗲𝗊𝗍. Even to a specialist, he looked like he told the truth. I have 2 questions. Why the hell am I in handcuffs and where the hell is Izuku? 𝗲𝗍𝗍 asked with hint of venom. For safety precautions. 𝗬𝗍𝗍 answered politely. And Izuku? 𝗲𝗍𝗍 stared him in the eye. 𝗬𝗍𝗍 was still in doubt if he should answer, but it's not like he could do anything with the information right. He's in prison called 𝗎𝗪𝙢. 𝗬𝗍𝗍 replied. The information he got brought a smile on 𝗲𝗍𝗍's face. Now he can do as he pleases. 𝗬𝗍𝗍 left the room with all might, to check up on something. But before leaving, 𝗬𝗍𝗍 pulled another set of handcuffs and handcuffed 𝗲𝗍𝗍 on the table's leg. Since the room they are for interrogation purposes, the table is embedded to the ground. And just for even more safety, they locked the door. Once they left, 𝗲𝗍𝗍 started laughing while there's no tomorrow. Not because of all the safety precautions to ensure he doesn't escape until they get back. He was laughing for one reason: disrespect. Do they really think these HNDCFFs can hold me here? He said hysterically. 𝗲𝗍𝗍 didn't waste a beat. His face went from pure laughter to pure anger. Break like that, he broke both of the HNDCFFs without a sweat. Standing back up in relief, what's next was the locked door. Kicking the door in a fast and sharp style, the door broke out of its hinges and flew back to a wall. Causing a scene is dangerous for him, but he doesn't care anymore. He'd gladly fight any heroes that tries to stop him, even All Might. Luckily, no one saw or heard the door break down. To make an embarrassment, his plan is to walk out right off the school gate. While going, he encountered 3 people. And of course, they didn't know he's escaping. The trio, or also known as the Big 3, saw 𝗲𝗍𝗍 walking to their direction. Mirio and Tamaki looked concerned, and that concern was for 𝗎𝗎𝗎. One glance was enough to see that she is different than before, going from a loud mouth who couldn't shut up to someone like Tamaki. Walking past one another, words were shared. I hope your brother knows what he did wrong, said Mirio. Naturally, he was worried for 𝗎𝗎𝗎's health, and to him, the only one to blame was Izuku. For everyone to have no faith in Izuku makes me realize that you weren't even his friends. 𝗲𝗍𝗍 said calmly. We were his friends. But we never knew he was a villain. We can't say Izuku is innocent because there's video evidence. 𝗵𝗃𝗀 fired back angrily. 𝗧𝗵𝗃 didn't know there was actual video evidence, so he was a bit surprised by his words. He finally understood why even All Might turned against him. But still, this proves they weren't really his friends anyway. You say you were his friend. If you really were his friend, you'd know Izuku would never do the thing everyone says he did. 𝗧𝗵𝗃 had enough of their stupidity wanting to leave you. He gave them a warning. Once Izuku is proven innocent, don't even think of apologizing. As for you 𝗧𝗧𝗪, don't even think about getting Izuku back. The reason he warned them is because he knows Izuku wouldn't accept it. He suffered too much, a simple apology wouldn't change much. With that he left you. Once he was far enough, he pulled out his phone and was calling a certain person. His father Yujiro Hanma. I'm certain you're calling for a reason. I know where Izuku is. Tartarus, said 𝗧𝗵𝗃. It's a prison, you know. For the most dangerous criminals out there, how'd you get him out of that shithole? 𝗧𝗵𝗃 clenched his left hand hard enough that veins started appearing all over his arm before uttering 4 more words. How do you think? 𝗧𝗵𝗃 slipped through everyone, not getting noticed by none of the heroes. Although 𝗧𝗧𝗪, 𝗵𝗃𝗀, and Tamaki saw him, they had no clue he was here for questioning. He said his quirk is called Bond. Said 𝗍𝗄𝗍𝗧 as he was typing on a laptop. He wanted to find out about 𝗧𝗵𝗃. For one key factor. If he did lie about his quirk, we have the rights to send him to prison. With that, 𝗍𝗄𝗍𝗧 was done with the search. It was quite easy actually. Although it's hard to find a person without knowing their last name, knowing how they look, or at least his name was already enough. Luckily, there weren't that many people with a name such as 𝗧𝗵𝗃, so it was much more easier. What else they did find was something he has never seen in the system. Name, 𝗧𝗵𝗃. Date of birth, SEC, male quirk. His date, quirk, and last name was missing from the system. This was unheard of to 𝗍𝗄𝗍𝗧 and Nizu, since he was also trying to find out who he actually was. This doesn't make sense. It's not protected, it's just not written in the system. The ID picture was definitely him, but they had no leads of anything. There have been cases where the quirk was mixed up, but not something as missing from the system. Of course, they couldn't just arrest him now, since there's no proof if 𝗧𝗵𝗃 did lie or not. Let's go back, said 𝗍𝗄𝗍𝗧. All Might and Nizu followed him as well. For Nizu, 𝗧𝗃 in a way looks familiar to someone, but can't put his finger on it. I'm not telling. 𝗍𝗄𝗍𝗧 remembered 𝗧𝗃's words. He definitely knew this would happen if they searched for him. What 𝗍𝗄𝗍𝗧 was also an expert was making the villains slip. He can make them slip information without them knowing. But sadly, it only works mostly on idiots, like thugs and lowly villains. But 𝗍𝗄𝗍𝗧 definitely knew 𝗧𝗃. Wasn't one with a mediocre mind, but this was his last trump card to try. Turning a corner, they saw a door lying on the ground. What? They all screamed. All Might, inform the other heroes and you inform the police, said Nizu. Now they have a reason to send him to bars, all they need is to find him. They hurried off to inform everyone while Nizu stayed and looked at the aftermath. Glancing at the broken door, he noticed an imprint, a foot imprint. This was astounding to Nizu. Naturally, 𝗧𝗃 definitely had anti-quirk untapped to stop him from escaping. So his quirk must be a strength enhancer. The only explanation Nizu could think of. But even if it was a strength enhancer quirk, how did he break the untapped? Sweat dropped from his forehead as he ran into the room 𝗧𝗃 was in. And there he saw it, the untapped, completely ripped in half. These were definitely the untapped which nullify quirks, so how did he break them? Even All Might without his quirk but in his buff form could definitely break them, but barely. The metal is sturdier than most. But with just one look, most could tell that the difference in weight was at least 3 times comparing All Might to 𝗧𝗃. Are you telling me he is that physically strong? Nizu couldn't believe it. Common sense told him that it was impossible, something like out of straight fiction. What the hell is his goal? Nizu exclaimed. The thought of him getting Izuku out of prison didn't come out in his head, since that is impossible. But unknown to him, that was his goal. Getting Izuku out any means necessary. Tartarus wasn't that far from you. But also not close. But 𝗧𝗃 was already on his journey. He had ordered a taxi to make it quicker for both him and Izuku. But before, he had grabbed some equipment before ordering a taxi, since 𝗵𝗃𝗲 isn't going to play games. Once on the road, the driver was concerned for what is happening. Yes, he knew the destination was Tartarus. His question was why 𝗵𝗃𝗲 was taping up his wrists and ankles. "Please don't tell me what I think you're going to do," the driver asked politely. "Don't ask, just drive." He didn't look at the driver as 𝗵𝗃𝗲 responded, since he was busy with his tape. "All right." The driver became silent as an ant. Once 𝗵𝗃𝗲 reached his destination, he exhaled as he left the car, also taking a look at the prison Tartarus surroundings. "Have a nice day, sir," the driver said as he left the proximity at 110 miles per hour. The first thing he saw was that it was guarded by 4 armed people. And they didn't look like pushovers as well. He also saw a few others on towers glancing at him, as if interested. Well, they aren't pushovers for a normal citizen for 𝗵𝗃𝗲, they are far below. There are signs indicating that this is private property, and you will be shot if you trespass, but 𝗵𝗃𝗲 was coming closer and closer to the entrance. "Hey, the hell do you think you're doing?" a guard exclaimed. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 was right near the entrance, having his glances all over the proximity. He realized that there aren't that many guards at all. "This is perfect," exclaimed 𝗵𝗃𝗲. He was right next to the 4 guards, and once they saw 𝗵𝗃𝗲 acting strangely, one wanted to intervene. He wanted to place a hand on his shoulder and scare him off, since he was at least 20 centimeters bigger than 𝗵𝗃𝗲. But before he even could, he fell down flat on the ground. He immediately startled the other guards. They pulled out their expandable batons. Quickly surrounding 𝗵𝗃𝗲 in a circle, they lashed at 𝗵𝗃𝗲. The guards, although having weak quirks, they were still the entrance guards for a reason. The reason being is they work together like bread and butter. So, once encasing 𝗵𝗃𝗲 in a circle, the 3 guards lashed their batons in unison, but in different areas. But it was a futile attempt to stop 𝗵𝗃𝗲's rampage. They thought they had hit 𝗵𝗃𝗲, all 3 of them together, but all they felt were the vibrations in their hands as their batons collided with one another. But before the other 2 could realize where he was, the tallest one in their group, named Max, was the only one who knew. "Right here," exclaimed 𝗵𝗃𝗲. He was right next to 𝗵𝗃𝗲. Max wanted to retaliate and either punch and kick him or something, but his body gave out. "You have to try harder than that." 𝗵𝗃𝗲 had punched him straight in the stomach. If Max was confident about anything, it was his abs. But even he, a man who was at least 1.5 times heavier than 𝗵𝗃𝗲, couldn't endure his devastating punch. Before the 2 other guards had realized, 𝗵𝗃𝗲 was on the move. The 2 guards wanted to get back in position, but 𝗵𝗃𝗲's speed was out of this world, even a quirk-filled world. 𝗵𝗃𝗲 performed a kick at the jaw from below. So much force was added into it that the guard was forced off the ground. Reinforcements were coming, so he quickly dealt with the last guard. The guard was looking straight at 𝗵𝗃𝗲 as he backed off. But just as he blinked, he wasn't in sight anymore. Before the guard knew it, he got put out. Punching swiftly from the side, 𝗵𝗃𝗲 had rattled his brain to the extreme, forcing him to pass out. The guards on the towers couldn't get a good shot at him, since he was moving all over the place. "State your business." The reinforcements came, but this time there were heroes in the mix. "Did you hear me? State your business." The guards on the towers couldn't shoot him now, since they only have the law to shoot if one trespasses into the property. But 𝗵𝗃𝗲 was right near the line, awaiting everyone with a smile. "I'm just here to get somebody out," exclaimed 𝗵𝗃𝗲. Although he was only 1 man, he made them feel fear with just his ominous presence. They were all on guard, waiting for him to attack. Even the guards had their guns out already. Even the snipers on top already had their aim on 𝗵𝗃𝗲. If he takes 1 step above the line, he'll be shot dead. Well, that's what they all think, having their eyes glued onto the target. They had no idea what just happened. He vanished. KK to Izuku. To say Izuku was having a hard time in prison isn't quite true. It's a different prison where there are no fights, no leader of the prisoners of some sorts. Every prisoner was considered as an equal. But Izuku was having it way easier than others. Once 𝗧𝗵𝗲𝗶 had a small talk with Izuku, and finding out he actually is a 𝗵𝗃𝗲, he gave him special treatment. Once the ordeal with 𝗧𝗵𝗲𝗶 was over, a few hours later, Izuku was greeted with presents. Books to read to pass the time, a telephone with working Wi-Fi. And for some reason, an actual working ice cream machine, unlike McDonald's granted, he was also given other presents as well, but too minuscule to mention, such as a small bouncy ball. And to ensure none of them are ever stolen, his jail cell is always locked once they have their free time out of the cells. The best present for Izuku was actually the bouncy ball. During his free time, he never left the cell, always bouncing the ball off the walls presumably for amusement. Even with all this special care, it never amounted to anything. Izuku still had those lifeless, emotionless eyes. Once the sun had came, 𝗲𝗄𝗧 once again went to talk with Izuku, to see if those presents made any impact for him. But to see it did nothing surprised him. Just like yesterday, 𝗲𝗄𝗧 felt like he was talking to a corpse. Even as of now, he was still in thought about it. Izuku being a 𝗵𝗃, he wanted to show respect for him. Although Yujiro is a dangerous enemy, he is also a great friend. Same as for Baki. Hope the kid gets better. 𝗲𝗄𝗧 signs, shuffling the papers on his desk. While working, a guard bursted into his office. With just one look, 𝗲𝗄𝗧 could tell he was frightened and worried. "Excuse me, sir, someone is trying to break into the prison," the guard said hesitantly. He was hoping 𝗲𝗄𝗧 wouldn't lash onto him. "Then go stop him," 𝗲𝗄𝗧 said as he started working again. "We tried, sir," the guard replied. That got 𝗲𝗄𝗧's attention. "We already sent reinforcements to deal with him, but we can't, he's just too strong even with the heroes helping." 𝗲𝗄𝗧 stopped all of his work. He stood up swiftly as he had a hunch of who it could be. "How does he look like?" he asked excitedly. "He is short and has red hair," the guard replied. Now if the guard had said he was tall and had red hair, 𝗲𝗄𝗧 would be worried for their lives. But once he said short, he knew it was Izuku's brother. Luckily, unlike his father, Baki never kills his opponents, mostly knocking them out so they don't interfere anymore. 𝗲𝗄𝗧 hurried outside. Even for his massive size, he was faster than most, that some might say he actually has a speed-type quirk. More and more reinforcements were called to deal with Baki, as no matter who they called, they met their demise in the blink of an eye. Once 𝗲𝗄𝗧 was near the exit, he had hears gunshots all around the place. Baki was a genius at fighting. Once a new batch of reinforcements came, he would always force himself into the middle of everyone. This was to ensure no one could shot him without worrying hitting an ally. But that sounds dumb, right? Forcing himself into the middle, where everyone could attack him from all directions. As Baki's saying goes, no matter if it's an army who fight with their hands, all of them are only strong as 4 people. It sounds bizarre, implying that an army is strong as 4 people. Actually, this is true. Only 4 people can attack him at once. If more than 4 try, they would always collide with one another and make them easier targets to defeat. 𝗲𝗄𝗧 reached for the door, opening it with excitement. He saw the scenery of all the unconscious guards and heroes lying down on the ground. The numbers. Over 100 easily. Baki still warmed up, having a lot more to go. 𝗲𝗄𝗧 knows Baki's an expert of striking and knowing where to strike. Most of them aren't going to wake up in a while. The guard accompanying 𝗲𝗧 also saw that the number of guards also increased by the time he came back. Out of fear, he hid himself behind 𝗲𝗄𝗧. Baki glances over at the left, noticing 𝗲𝗧. "𝗲𝗧!" he exclaimed. "Hey Baki, quite the scene you made," he exclaimed. "Are you here to stop me as well?" Baki asked politely. "Not really." He had fought Baki a year ago, and almost won. The key word almost. 𝗲𝗄𝗧 knows that Baki is definitely way stronger than before. "Then why did you come?" Baki asked. "My guards told me someone was making a scene, so I had to see," said 𝗲𝗄𝗧. "Sorry, but I won't stop until get my brother out." "Izuku Midoriya, right?" 𝗲𝗄𝗧 exclaimed with a smile. Baki was surprised. He knew Izuku was his brother right from the get-go. Intriguing Baki a bit for knowing this. Maybe Izuku told him. Or maybe he found out himself. Izuku. His brother. 𝗲𝗄𝗧. Smart. The guard behind 𝗲𝗄𝗧. Frightened. Trivago. "I talked to him, you know I'm the warden around here." 𝗲𝗄𝗧 said. "Then you know I won't stop until I get him out," said Baki. Baki was determined to help his brother, even if it means fighting a friend. He definitely knows Izuku is not in his right mind after experiencing betrayal and heartbreak at the same time. I know, follow me. 𝗲𝗲𝗍 waved his hand at 𝗵𝗃𝗃, signaling to follow him. What? 𝗵𝗃𝗃 asked, confused. I'll get your brother out, let's go meet him. 𝗲𝗲𝗍 said with a smile. He'll help 𝗵𝗃𝗃 get Izuku out, the easiest way he knows how. No paperwork, no parole, no bribes to get him out, he's keeping it plain and simple. Oh, by the way, take care of the others. 𝗲𝗲𝗍 told the guard. He took a look at the site, seeing the entire area filled with unconscious brethren of his. You mean all of them? He knew this gon take a while. Making their way down to the cells of the prisoners, 𝗵𝗃𝗃, like most, realized this place is extremely clean and quiet. He's not far, follow me, said 𝗲𝗍𝗍. 𝗵𝗃𝗃 nodded and continued to follow him. Once going up a few stairs, 𝗲𝗍𝗍 called out for him, Izuku. 𝗲𝗍𝗍 screamed not that loudly, but loud enough to get his attention. Izuku was doing his usual bouncing the ball back and forth thing every day, only leaving the cell to eat. What? He replied, emotionless. The voice already gave it away. 𝗵𝗃𝗃 ran to his cell to make sure he didn't hear it correctly. He came to a stop at Izuku's cell, 221. He took a good look at Izuku and realized the damage was done to him. Just like 𝗲𝗍𝗍, what he noticed was his lifeless, emotionless eyes filled with void. To a point where he is extremely easy to manipulate. Izuku. 𝗵𝗃𝗃 had called out to him. Izuku turned his head swiftly as he recognized the voice from anywhere. 𝗵𝗃𝗃. His reply had a hint of happiness, but all of it was shrouded by the negative emotions swindling inside his body. No matter how he looked at Izuku, what he needed the most was a simple hug. 𝗵𝗃𝗃 did not waste any time. He forcefully broke the jail cell door down to get inside, and embracing him with a tight, yet warm hug. What are you doing here? Izuku asked. He started to cry. Such a simple hug already had a deep impact in his recovery. Even 𝗲𝗍𝗍 realized Izuku instantly got a little bit better once seeing 𝗵𝗃𝗃 and getting a hug from him. They're brothers for a reason. 𝗲𝗍𝗍 waited patiently for them to catch up. I'm here to get you out, said 𝗵𝗃𝗃 happily. You know that's not possible, right? Of all people you should have known that. Izuku had gotten a little bit of his funny side back, and that's what 𝗵𝗃𝗃 wanted to see. Actually, you can go, said 𝗲𝗍𝗍, interrupting them. What? Why? Izuku asked, confused. Don't ask, just know that you can get out from this shithole. Signaling the two to follow him, he went into his office. He took out his phone, called a person and spoke to him for a bit about Izuku. Mere minutes later, a whole batch of clothes had just come in for him. 𝗲𝗍𝗍 said it's for Izuku, so he tried them out. Surprisingly enough, most of them fit Izuku, and they gave him the slice to redress himself. He had the orange prison suit like anyone in this prison. 𝗲𝗍𝗍, is it really okay for me to leave? Won't you get in trouble? Asked Izuku. I'll probably make up an excuse that you escaped somehow and we can't track you down. If for the worst, I'll tell the authorities that your father is Yujiro, they'll instantly back off, said 𝗲𝗍𝗍. Izuku was a bit oblivious to what he meant. My father? Izuku asked. Izuku, I didn't tell you for your own sake, but your father is Hanma Yujiro. When all hope seemed lost for Izuku, his brother came to the rescue. To his surprise, 𝗲𝗍𝗍 decided to just let him go. Of course, 𝗲𝗍𝗍 could get into a lot of trouble for letting him go, or even worse, lose the job or even get imprisoned himself. But what astounded Izuku was that 𝗲𝗍𝗍 mentioned a man called Yujiro. 𝗵𝗃𝗃 also mentioned the name of that man, Yujiro Hanma. By his instincts alone, the name already sounded strong for some reason. But still, he had no clue of who or what he is. Sorry to burst your bubble, but I have no idea who Yujiro is. Izuku replied while scratching his head. In a way, all he knew is that man is his father, nothing more, nothing less. Oh yeah. 𝗵𝗃𝗃 remembered that he never spoke about him to Izuku. I'll tell you on once we leave. Leaving the prison, he was happy to know he's a free man. Seeing the carnage of fallen heroes and guards laying near the exit, almost seemingly blocking his way out. What happened here? He asked. Being escorted by his brother and 𝗲𝗍𝗍, He saw that 𝗧𝗲𝗂 was giving 𝗵𝗃𝗲 a glare while he tried not to look him in the eyes. "You did this?" "Yes, 𝗵𝗃𝗲." He hoped he could have hid the fact it was him, but 𝗧𝗲𝗂 just had to look at him. "Yeah, if I knew 𝗧𝗲𝗂 was the warden, I wouldn't have," said 𝗵𝗃𝗲 while 𝗧𝗲𝗂 smirked at the mention. Still, it was a surprise for Izuku to know that 𝗵𝗃𝗲 had a fight with so many people, yet he noticed his brother didn't have a single wound, even his clothes are still clean. You would expect at least to see his clothes torn apart or having some dirt on it, but nope, clean as if straight out of the dry cleaners. That begged Izuku a question: how strong is 𝗵𝗃𝗲? His eyes noticed that even a few heroes are on the ground, and some he even recognizes. Being a hero is easy, but to have an actual hero license proves that you have the strength to stand your ground against villains. Road to becoming a hero isn't something that everyone can become. You must be sharp, smart, a quick thinker, strong and fast. So yet again, Izuku's mind was fixated on finding out more about 𝗵𝗃𝗲. Not even in his 20s and yet stronger than all of those people on the ground. 𝗧𝗲𝗂 had ordered them his very own private Uber to get home more safely. The car stood right near the gate of Tartarus, 𝗧𝗲𝗂 signaling that it's for them. Once going inside the car, 𝗧𝗲𝗂 asked 𝗵𝗃𝗲 to speak in private. Leaving Izuku alone with the driver, 𝗵𝗃𝗲 and 𝗧𝗲𝗂 went around the corner to talk. You do realize nothing actually changes. No school would accept a prison escapee. Also, he lost his quirk, he can't even become a hero anymore, let alone help people. 𝗧𝗲𝗂 spoke. In essence, it's true, if he tries to apply to school or even some kind of job, they'd freak out to see that this man should be in prison and not applying to AF school at the same time. But it's not like 𝗵𝗃𝗲 didn't think of this. All of what happened to his poor brother might have actually broke his dream of becoming a hero. But even if he still wants to, but not having a quirk at the same time, he'll help. "Don't worry, I'll train him," 𝗵𝗃𝗲 exclaimed. "So you're going to make a calamity in this world?" 𝗧𝗲𝗂 said sarcastically. "Trust me, he won't be like that. Although I'm certain he will never forgive others, and even his girlfriend, he won't join the dark side." 𝗵𝗃𝗲 said. With that, he parted ways with 𝗧𝗲𝗂, shaking their hands for a goodbye. Going back to the Uber, Izuku was curious as to what they were talking about. "What did you guys talk about?" Izuku asked, interested. "Although there's no point in hiding, he'll find out soon enough." "You'll find out?" 𝗵𝗃𝗲 exclaimed with a smile. "Where to, sir?" the driver asked. There was only one place safe for Izuku, and now he's certain the detectives and heroes are also searching for him. The safe haven for Izuku was 𝗵𝗃𝗲's home. "Take us to 𝗧𝗃𝗃 Mountain," 𝗵𝗃𝗲 said, realizing the author is a fan of Hunter x Hunter. "Very well," the driver replied, turning the cab on and driving to the destination. All seemed fine at first, but Izuku was curious as to why 𝗧𝗃𝗃 Mountain. The mountain is owned by an anonymous person. But not just the mountain, but also the residing land Oswell. Realizing 𝗵𝗃𝗲 has been giving him surprises from left and right, he realized that 𝗵𝗃𝗲 is presumably the owner. He has a lot to ask, but for safety, he wants to ask him in private with no one around. The mountain is actually very close to you. Only a 1-hour walk from each destination to the other. While the drive to 𝗧𝗃𝗃 Mountain continued, the search for 𝗵𝗃𝗲 still continued on the hero's side Oswell. Once searching, All Might decided to search in his skinny form so that civilians wouldn't recognize the #1 hero and hinder his search. It's been over a 30-minute search and they have no clue where he is hiding. All Might wanted to call it a day cause he feels the search is pointless, maybe he's already out of town. He sighs as he gives up on the search, ready to call it a day. Once going home, his eyes fixated on a specific car on the road. Granted, the only reason he was intrigued by the car is because Japanese people usually never drive such a stylish car. What caught his eye was the car being an American-style car. "It's been a while since I've seen such a car in Japan," All Might exclaimed. Once it drove past him, just for a second his eyes saw green hair. It was too sudden, he only realized it was green hair, he didn't have time to see that face of the passenger. For a split second, he remembered Izuku, and quickly the thoughts of him disappeared like the wind. "There's no way that's him," 𝗧𝗵𝗲 Might exclaimed. He brushed those thoughts off and went to the store and buy some groceries. Izuku didn't see him during the drive, because 𝗵𝗃𝗲 intervened. He noticed him from afar. Baki knew if Izuku saw him he'd definitely be enraged. So his plan was to loosen his focus from the road to him by small talk. Not long after, they reached the mountainside. Completely surrounded by 3-meter walls, the 𝗧𝗵𝗃 mountain was protected as if national treasury. Upon leaving the Uber, Izuku finally had the perfect timing to ask Baki a question. "Baki, how strong are you?" Izuku asked with a serious tone. The scene of the fallen heroes and policemen raised Izuku a question: is Baki strong as a top hero? Strong enough to break the law and have no consequences? Baki replied. An intriguing reply to Izuku. Not even All Might would be safe if he in some sort of twist becomes a villain. After all, the heroes always win. You're joking, right? Izuku questioned his statement. You better hope so. Baki replied sarcastically. Although a little doubt in his head, he realized it's best not to ask too much. Once out of the car, his eyes saw the entrance into the mountain's residing area. Or not like an entrance, more like a steel gate, too big to capable of someone opening it. This is the entrance, Baki said, giving Izuku something to think. I mean, the gate is too big. Izuku thought this was for decoration and that there's another door, way smaller than this one, to go inside. But to his surprise, Baki walked up to the door, placed both of his hands on the door and pushed. Izuku thought it was foolish. There's no way the door would even budge. But guess what? It did. Slowly but surely, the door was creaking, and a second later, it opened. Let's go inside, said Baki. Oh, okay, Izuku replied. Was his eyes deceiving him, and the gate has some sort of mechanism which make the door easier to open? For a second, he thought it was true, but quickly proven wrong as he saw bruise marks on the ground below. The bruises were created by the door, creating friction as Baki pushed it to open. He went inside, seeing the mountain from afar, taking in the view. A few seconds later, the door closed it itself. In the distance, he noticed a mansion. Quickly following Baki to the mansion, he was surprised to see it's bigger than he thought. Baki, you're rich? He asked, confused. Yep. It was kinda hard to believe since Baki's clothes looked like he got them from a dollar store. Quickly brushing the fact off, Baki showed him around the mansion. It was a modern-type mansion, mostly consisting of black and white color interior. And to his brother's kindness, Izuku was surprised to see that he has his very own room. It was too overwhelming to see that his room is literally the same size as his house. Make yourself at home, I'm gonna go make breakfast, Baki said. Wait, Izuku replied. He had a lot on his mind, and he needs answers. First being, the strange urge to train. Second being, who is his father? I have a lot to ask, said Izuku. Baki quickly understood what Izuku wants to ask, so he sat down on the bed. All right. I remember you acted strangely when I said that I had an unstoppable urge to train, and I reckon you know why. After that day, it disappeared like it was never there. But last night it appeared again, and even as of now that urge to train still resides in me now. Izuku looked at his hands excitedly, shaking from this weird feeling. Baki knew he wanted answers, so being a good big bro he answered. Yeah, I know, exclaimed Baki. It's because you tapped your potential as a 𝗵𝗃. Baki exclaimed. But what is a 𝗵𝗃? He asked. You make it sound like we're a whole different species. Baki snickered. But in a way, we are. I guess our bodies are different from the average man. Before you even told me that All Might was the one who gave you the quirk, I already knew you got it an external way. Baki answered. A lot of whole new knowledge to Izuku. What do you mean? Izuku was confused. A child of a 𝗵𝗃 can't physically be born with a quirk. I don't actually know why, but it is what it is. Wait, that means you also don't have a quirk. Then how did you defeat that many people? Izuku was even more confused. At the mention of his victims, Baki stood up. I told you, a 𝗵𝗃's body is completely different from the average person. Although some people have a talent for fighting, or even a prodigy at that, for a 𝗵𝗃, that doesn't matter even one bit. A 𝗵𝗃 is literally born to fight, Baki replied. We also do have some benefits which others don't. Imagine two people, one who trains every day non-stop with barely any rest, and another who trains 2-3 times a week with plenty of rest between workouts, who do you think improves more? The guy who trained every day. Izuku answered. I swear to God, even All Might told you overtraining exists. Ever heard of a saying, train smart not hard? All Might told me once. But I don't know what it means. Izuku, I swear to F God, it means train what your body can endure, not what you think is best, and in the end most overtrain themselves. To answer your question, you're wrong, the one who trained less has more improvements. But to us, it's different. Our bones are much stronger and denser than others, we naturally have more stamina, our bodies heal much faster to a point most would think it's a quirk helping us. But the best thing yet, Baki smiles, but not in a happy way, more like a sadistical way. Overtraining doesn't apply to us, Baki evilly replied. Izuku had a lot to take in, him being a natural-born fighting monster, his brother being one Oswell, him being born quirkless not because of his luck but because of the weird drawback of being a Hanma. It was a little too much. Baki realized that, so he left Izuku alone to take everything in. He laid onto the bed, he hoped it would relieve his stress, but it did barely anything. What the hell am I? He questioned himself, his eyes gazing the fan on the wall. All alone in the room with complete silence, Izuku finally realized that he wants, or more like urges, to train. It was a hella big room, but it had no equipment, so the only thing he could do as of now was push-ups. He jolted from his bed, placed his hands on the ground and started. Once experiencing it, he realized that his personal record were literally child's play. Once reaching 87 push-ups without stopping, his personal best, he realized that he wasn't even tired. So he broke his PR by reaching a 100, then 150, 200 and 337. Granted, he didn't stop because his arms started hurting, he stopped because Baki had called out to him, telling him breakfast is ready. He bolted from his room since he hasn't eaten yet. His room was on the second story, so he climbed down the stairs and noticed Baki had cooked up a whole batch of curry. Holy, why did you make that much curry? He asked. Trust me, after a while, you'll be asking for even more. He sat down, seeing he had a whole bowl filled with curry. There's no way I'm eating that much, Izuku mumbled. You will. Baki heard his mumbling. Izuku, though he overestimated his appetite. Still, he was hungry, so he took the bowl and started munching. Each munch he took felt like he was getting even more hungry. Before he even realized it, he finished the bowl clean. Seeing that Baki gave him a cocky look which said, I told you so, Izuku swallowed his pride and requested for another bowl. This is another gift or side effect. We tend to be more hungry than usual, stated Baki while eating his fifth bowl. Time passed and they both cleared the whole batch of curry. Although Izuku ate to his heart's intent, he still couldn't grasp his meaning of leaving Tartarus. Baki, what's the point of breaking me out of prison when my future is already ruined? Izuku stated in a sad tone. Like previously said, no school would accept a boy with such a record, and he even has some sort of feeling that 𝗧𝗼 would probably intervene if by some luck he actually enrolled into one. That's simple. Baki exclaimed. I'm going to train you. He stated with a smile. Be ready to endure hell, 𝗧𝗵𝗃. It was the weekend, so no school for the students. It has only been a few days since Izuku was exiled, but the class wasn't fazed not one bit. There was no moment of disbelief of Izuku being a villain. Once the class was shown the video of Izuku doing the deed, they just accepted the fact it happened. Same for 𝗎𝗎, Mirio and Tamaki in a way, maybe it's because they thought he's too perfect. He had a very strong quirk, was nice, easy to get along with, quite cute to the girls, had the heart of a true hero and one of the cutest girls in 𝗎𝗎 was his girlfriend. If the girls had to decide which boy they wanted to date from their class, 70% would pick Izuku. If all of them had to decide which classmate was the most helpful in a fight, most of them would pick Izuku. He was the dream boyfriend to most girls, and he looked like a true hero to the people who saw him in action. Same for the 𝗎𝗎, teachers and heroes. He was always one of the best in academics and the best in hero studies. If the teachers had to pick which student had the most potential, they would pick Izuku. His rapid rate of improvement was a sight to see, and frightening at the same time. The most it affected was All Might and 𝗎𝗎. 𝗎𝗎 still hasn't recovered her goofy and cheerful side, and mostly never will. For that, Mirio and Tamaki obviously put the blame on Izuku for breaking her heart. All Might resents himself for giving his quirk to a villain. But what he saw today is still in his head. Less than a second he saw green hair in the American car. It could be anyone, but he was sure it was a male. The only male he does know who has green hair is Izuku naturally. He wanted to make sure it couldn't have been him, so he contacted 𝗎𝗎. "Excuse me, 𝗎𝗎," said All Might. "What is it?" "Can't find a new successor." 𝗎𝗎 stated. "Today I saw someone. In a car with green hair." All Might. For some reason, he was reminded of 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏. The pure physical strength he showed was out of this world. So, because of the concern All Might caused, he called 𝗎𝗓𝗏. They aren't really friends, but know each other somewhat. 𝗎𝗓𝗏 was off-course working. The paperwork he had to do wasn't much during the weekend, but it still wasn't that easy to finish. Hearing his ringtone, he glanced at his phone. Realizing it was 𝗎𝗎, he somewhat thought of the reason he'd call him. "Don't tell me Izuku got caught already," he grunted. He picked up the call, hoping for the best. "Hello," 𝗎𝗓𝗏 said, somewhat nervous. "Hey, it's me." 𝗎𝗎 responded. "Do you need something?" 𝗎𝗓𝗏 asked. "I'm just calling to make sure Izuku is still behind bars." 𝗎𝗎 exclaimed. "Izuku, the green-haired boy?" 𝗎𝗓𝗏 stated. He fake looked into some files, pretending to check the prisoner documents. "Yeah, he's here. Why?" 𝗎𝗓𝗏 asked. 𝗬𝗓 had it on loudspeaker, so All Might heard it loud and clear. Naturally, the worries dispersed, for him and 𝗎𝗎. But still, All Might felt like he wanted something more. Once seeing the green-hair boy in the car, he thought of Izuku for a while. Now that he thought about it, the possibility of Izuku doing such a crime made him doubt it. "Nice going, All Might, the boy you trained for 10 months and pretty much you became his father figure, and only now you have doubts of Izuku's crimes. Like Jesus, All Might, I know I'm the one writing this, but I felt disgusted for some reason." The torch he had passed to Izuku, he never ceased to amaze him. All this time, he always showed All Might he was a worthy successor of his quirk. Even if it was all a facade, a lie detector quirk couldn't even see right through it. "That's good to hear," stated 𝗎𝗎. "Phew." 𝗎𝗓𝗏 dodged a bullet. 𝗎𝗎 heard the news, so he wanted to end the call. His finger right on the end call button, All Might intervened. "Wait," All Might said. "What is it, All Might?" "I need to visit him," All Might stated. "Are you certain?" 𝗎𝗎 questioned. All Might gave him a serious nod, to ensure this is needed. 𝗎𝗎 signed out of frustration. "Can we visit him?" 𝗎𝗎 exclaimed. 𝗎𝗓𝗏 started sweating profusely. Now this was bad, or more like the endgame. "SHT, 𝗎𝗎's smart. If I refuse he'll know something's up," 𝗎𝗓𝗏 thought. "Why, yeah, is tomorrow fine?" 𝗎𝗓𝗏 asked. "Fine by me." 𝗎𝗎 ended the call. Once the call ended, 𝗎𝗓𝗏 messed up. Now he has a lot of work to do. Once 𝗎𝗓𝗏 ended the call, he knew this wasn't good. He just agreed to let someone meet Izuku, who hold and behold is already out of prison. "Well, I gotta call 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏, 𝗎𝗓𝗏 signed out of frustration. KK to the boys, what do you mean be ready to endure hell? Izuku asked frightened. The training won't be as easy as you think. Let me give you an example. Let's say there is a point system from 110, the higher the number the harder the workout. So, where do you think the 10 months of training by All Might stands? He quickly understood that 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏's training will be way harder than All Might's, so he tried to think positively. The 10 months of training stands at like 4 out of 10 maybe. Izuku replied. It can't even be considered a 1 out of 10, 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 replied. And where do you think my training will stand at? He asked somewhat sadistically. Izuku gulped, in fear of what he might have to endure again. But yet again, he was thinking positively, 5 out of 10. Izuku replied. Once 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗧𝗏 heard it, he wheezed. 11 out of 10, 𝗧𝗃𝗃 quickly replied. All Might's training isn't even hard enough to be considered a 1 and 𝗧𝗃𝗃𝗧𝗏's training is too hard to measure. This struck fear into Izuku. But still, what else could he do? All this time he thought that quirkless people are always going to be at the end of the pyramid, yet there's 𝗧𝗃𝗃, a quirkless person who already stands at the top. Granted, it's because he's a hanma, but Izuku is also one, so he could, or more likely can become like him as well. 𝗵𝗃 did also warn him that even with such benefits of being a living cheat code, it still won't be easy as he thinks. It's for you to decide if you want to endure it, said 𝗵𝗃. I'll think about it, Izuku replied. In the midst of the conversation, 𝗵𝗃's phone started ringing. Quickly taking it out of his pockets, and realizing it's 𝗧𝗵𝗲, he instantly knew it's something about Izuku. I have to take this, he said to Izuku. He went into another room, in hopes Izuku doesn't hear it. Hello, 𝗵𝗃 answered. Hey 𝗵𝗃, I got some bad news, 𝗧𝗵𝗲 said somewhat worried. Don't tell me you already knows he left. 𝗵𝗃 asked angrily. No, not that. It's just I need Izuku back in prison, like right now. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 replied, hoping 𝗵𝗃 won't get mad. Why? He asked angrily. You see, tomorrow, someone from you is going to visit him, and I already agreed, said 𝗧𝗵𝗲. He hears nothing on the phone, just 𝗵𝗃 breathing. Just by the sound of his breathing, he could tell he was furious. 𝗵𝗃 ended the call out of nowhere, which didn't surprise 𝗧𝗵𝗲. He comes out of the corner, seeing Izuku still thinking about what to do. Izu, we gotta go back to prison, said 𝗵𝗃. He could only question why. KK to All Might he left Nisa's office after confirming he could visit Izuku. Remembering the whole travago Izuku had caused. And here I thought I found a worthy successor, he thought. In essence, he hates what Izuku had done, but also wants to find out why. There was no doubt that he did do the deed, since there was video evidence. His goal is to find out why he did it, or probably what forced him to do it. Walking down the corridor, he stumbled upon the big three. They took one glance at All Might, and knew he was deep in thought about something. Hey All Might, you alright? Mirio asked. The question startled All Might, but quickly tried to get his composure back together. Why yeah, I'm fine. He stuttered. Withoff missing a beat, he tried to go. All Might, I can tell something's wrong. Mirio exclaimed. It's about Izuku, right? He asked. All Might stopped right in his tracks. 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗔𝗪, once hearing his name, wanted to go away and leave the conversation. All Might signs, everyone's too smart around here. Yeah, it's just I'm going to visit him tomorrow. 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗔𝗪 was already trying to leave, but once she heard All Might's plan, her pace stopped. Naturally, it was an unexpected surprise for the trio. Silence fell down to everyone in the corridor. They had no idea what to say. What felt like minutes, no one was uttering a word. Surprised are you? I know there's no reason to visit him, I just want to know why he did it. All Might exclaimed. There is no reason to visit him, you saw how he smiled to the camera. Mirio ratted. What he intended to say that the entire video of Izuku stealing files, he had a menacing and a psychopathic smile. Weird enough, he actually smiled to the camera. I want to know why he joined the dark side. All Might replied. The sentence struck 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗔𝗪's heart. All this time being with Izuku, she never saw a hint of him being a villain. Yet, the video showed a completely different Izuku. Silence had once again befell the corridor, since no one had anything to say, except 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗔𝗪. All Might tried to break this uncomfortable silence, but 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗔𝗪 was the first to reply. Take me with you, 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗔𝗪 exclaimed. It shocked all three of the boys. Out of everyone here, the person who the least needs to meet Izuku is her. 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗔𝗪, please tell me you're joking. Mirio asked. I'm not. She replied with a straight face. All Might took a good look at her, and already knew she wasn't joking. Her demeanor, face, reply wasn't meant as a joke. He signed, knowing she won't take no for an answer. Small time skipped to the prison after arriving at the prison, which they were escorted by the same personal 𝗧𝗵𝗲's driver. The guards were already aware of the situation and let the two inside. Quickly they met up with 𝗧𝗵𝗲 at his office. Izuku still didn't know why, but saw his prison suit folded onto the sofa on the left. Why are my prison clothes on the sofa? He noticed that on the clothes it was written 221, which was his. You see, someone from you wants to visit you tomorrow, said 𝗧𝗵𝗲. What? Izuku was dumbfounded. He doesn't want to meet anyone, well, maybe except for a one blue-haired girl. Clearly, the sentence touched his feelings. The moment he sees anyone from you, it's going to have an impact. I know you probably don't want to meet anyone from you. But you'll have to, exclaimed 𝗲𝗏𝗏. Do you know who? 𝗧𝗵𝗃𝗲 asked. I'm not sure, 𝗲𝗏𝗏 replied. Although both 𗗧𝗃𝗲 and 𝗲𝗏𝗏 were fine, Izuku was contemplating about his life. They didn't specify when. All I know it's tomorrow, 𝗲𝗏𝗏 said. 𗧧𝗃𝗲 signed. He knew Izuku has to stay in prison till tomorrow. All right, Izuku agreed to do everything. 𗧧𝗃𝗲 and 𝗲𝗏𝗏 gave him some space to put on the clothes. Once done, 𗧧𝗃𝗲 waved Izuku a goodbye since he won't see him till tomorrow. Aizu was escorted by a guard to his chambers, which were the same as before. Jail cell 221. The stuff 𝗲𝗏𝗏 had given him prior were now gone. All that's left is a bed and a toilet. At least it's only till tomorrow, he said, plopping down onto the bed. It was actually quite comfortable, not the same as in 𝗧𝗃𝗲's mansion, but good enough to have a good night's sleep. He was hoping he could sleep through the entire day, since he has nothing to do. Growl, his stomach was growling. He was getting hungry, too hungry. 𝗬𝗏𝗄 stomach. Izuku ratted. A few more hours before he could eat, so he had to endure. Wait, you're that kid? Someone exclaimed. Izuku turned around and saw a guard patrolling the area. Taking a closer look, it was the guard as from before. Could you inform 𝗲𝗏𝗏 that I'm super hungry? Izuku asked. The guard nodded and made his way to 𝗲𝗏𝗏's office. 30 minutes pass, and the guard comes back and unlocks Izuku's door. Follow me, he said. He made his way through the jail cells, whilst getting attention from the others since no one can come out at such a time. He left the area, to his delight, but also went to a path he hasn't even seen. Coming to a stop, he saw an elevator. Go to floor number 1, the guard said as he left the area. This isn't floor 1, Aizu thought. Taking his thought out of his head, he went on the elevator and traveled to floor 1. The elevator came to a stop and opened to reveal a decently long path filled with what looks like expensive antiques. In the end of the path was a wooden door, where Izuku thinks 𝗲𝗏𝗏 is probably there. He reached the door, ready to knock on the door. Come in, said a voice. But there was no need to, which surprised Izuku. He looked around and definitely saw no cameras, so the voice calling him out perplexed him. He enters inside, and he wasn't expecting to see such a sight. A huge round table filled with all sorts of dishes, while 𝗲𝗏𝗏 was patiently waiting for him. Ya hungry? Said 𝗲𝗏𝗏 excitedly. Yeah. Then sit down and enjoy the food. 𝗲𝗏𝗏 exclaimed, smiling. The sight of the dishes were overwhelming for Aizu. They didn't look like some ordinary dishes, more like from expensive restaurants. He sat down on the chair completely opposite of 𝗲𝗏𝗏 and was ready to dig in. Holy 𝗧𝗏𝗃, this is delicious, Aizu blurted. Manners, boy, said 𝗲𝗏𝗏. Izuku calmed down, but it wasn't easy. The food was too delicious to him. No matter how much he ate, he wasn't even close to getting full. That appetite of yours actually amazes me, 𝗲𝗏𝗏 blurted. What 𝗧𝗃𝗲 told me, it's because I'm a 𝗵𝗃𝗲. Izuku replied. 𝗲𝗏𝗏 got a little curious. You know what a 𝗵𝗃𝗲 is, right? Yeah, 𝗧𝗃𝗲 explained it not too long ago. Izuku replied, but I still don't know one thing. What's that? 𝗲𝗏𝗏 raised his eyebrow. The only thing on his mind right now was his father, Yujiro Hanma. Who is Yujiro Hanma? He asked 𝗲𝗏𝗏. Once he mentioned that name, the aura surrounding 𝗲𝗏𝗏 changed. Izuku felt it. The sudden change in his face and aura was enough to freak him out. 𝗲𝗏𝗏. Izuku's voice brought him back together. Sorry, 𝗲𝗏𝗏 calmly replied. I'll tell you. Follow me. With that, they finished their dinner. 𝗲𝗏𝗏 ordered the others to clean up the table while escorting Izuku to another room. A few minutes go by before reaching the place where 𝗲𝗏𝗏 wanted Izuku to see. To Izuku, it looks like a library. Although it is, but for 𝗲𝗏𝗏, it has a lot more meaning. 2 years ago, I fought your dad right here at this very place. 𝗲𝗏𝗏 exclaimed calmly. The fight he had is still engraved in his head, always remembering the day like it was yesterday. Back then, I didn't know much about him, only knew him by his nickname. What was it? Izuku asked. Ogre, or the strongest creature on the planet. 𝗲𝗏𝗏 said. Strongest creature on the planet, a nickname Izuku wasn't expecting. 2 years ago I was a cocky 𝗧𝗪𝗎. I actually thought I'm the strongest alive, until I fought him. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 ratted. Let me show you something. Izuku followed 𝗧𝗵𝗲 into another room, which was filled with old antiques. But what most stood out were a pair of boxing gloves on top of a shelf. One of them looked like, in simple terms, completely broken. Most people can't imagine his true power, but this shows you what he can do. The boxing glove was so damaged that it didn't even look like a glove anymore. In a way it looked like a piece of art. Once he came here 2 years ago, I gave him these gloves as a joke. They aren't some you find in a gym, these were pre-ordered by me. The fiber is strong enough to stop a bullet, yet look what happened to it. He exclaimed. Yujiro did this. Izuku asked amazed. And guess what, with only one punch. One punch from him is strong enough to completely break something even bullets can't. He didn't even hit something, he just punched the air and this happened. You fought him, how did it go? Izuku asked. I told you I was a cocky 𝗧𝗪𝗎 2 years ago. Why do you think I'm not anymore? 𝗧𝗵𝗲 said sarcastically. Seeing his feat with the gloves I gave him already was enough to change my mindset. And yeah, he beat the 𝗧𝗓𝗍 out of me, 𝗧𝗵𝗲 exclaimed. After then I actually became friends with him. Yujiro respects the strong, and him to see me as a strong person was enough to change me. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 sees him as a great friend actually, just like Baki. You called him the strongest creature on the planet. Is this actually true or is it just a nickname? Izuku seriously asked. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 turns his gaze to Izuku before giving him a small smile. That perfectly sums up his strength. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 said. After that, Izuku headed back to his cell. Everything he learned today was unbelievable. The fact that his actual father is aka the strongest creature on the planet gave him a sense of relief and fear at the same time. He had nothing else to do, so the only thing he did was try to sleep the entire day. Luckily 𝗧𝗵𝗲 told the guards beforehand that Izuku is a special case around here, so they didn't bother him. The next day had finally came. He actually didn't even shower nor he brushed his teeth, so his hygiene is lacking. But hey, it's only one day. He was still sleeping but a guard forcefully woke him up. Hey, 𝗧𝗵𝗲's calling for you. A guard spoke. Izuku yawns before getting up and following the guard back to 𝗧𝗵𝗲. They're here. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 spoke to Izuku. Wait, who came? He asked. All Might, and some guy that looks like a caterpillar. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 exclaimed. My homeroom teacher. Izuku said without joy. Oh, and a blue-haired girl. Once 𝗧𝗵𝗲 said it, Izuku pretty much fell down onto the sofa. His eyes widened, he feels like he should meet her, but his conscience doesn't. 𝗧𝗵𝗲 noticed his change in behavior so he tried to tease him. What? She your girlfriend or something? 𝗧𝗵𝗲 said sarcastically. Ex-girlfriend. Izuku said. Oh, the prison does have a special room where family members or lawyers can visit them to check if they are okay or to discuss how to get out. But that's the thing, Izuku couldn't even fathom why they would visit him, especially 𝗎𝗎𝗓. So now Izuku stood behind the door, where the trio was waiting. He could see them through the window of the door. It's true, they really are here, an ex-mentor, ex-teacher and an ex-girlfriend, the people he doesn't want to meet. He inhales and exhales before entering the room. The three heard the door opening. Turning their heads to the source, seeing Izuku come out, they frowned. If you all don't want to see me that badly, then why the F did you all come here? He thought. No 𝗧𝗪𝗧𝗍𝗧. All Might asked without a smile. I'm meeting a hero who can erase quirks and a hero who can defeat pretty much anyone with a single punch. Izuku said without joy. He looked at 𝗎𝗎𝗓, who he clearly noticed was now entirely different. Just for a second, their eyes locked with one another. In that second, Izuku noticed the sadness and the heartbreak she was feeling. But still, it's her fault, so what do you want? He quickly looked away from 𝗎𝗎𝗓 as if never having looked at her. You can stop with the acting, we saw your true side on the video. All Might spoke. Now he remembered that in the video he was constantly smiling like a crazed psycho. Say what you want, I know you wouldn't come here to tell me that. Izuku stated. Although they had a lot to ask, All Might just wanted to know one thing. What made you join the villains? All Might asked with a serious face. Nothing, Izuku replied without missing a beat. Obviously, his reply raised some questions that need answers. What do you mean nothing? Aizawa asked, raising his eyebrow. Like I said, nothing. He answered again. Elaborate. All Might exclaimed. Nothing made me join the villains. Izuku lazily answered once again. So you're going to play that game? Aizawa said whilst looking Izuku in the eyes. Don't think it's that game if I'm telling the truth though. He replied. Silence fell down in the room, while All Might and Aizawa were getting a little agitated by his half-hearthed responses. Who else is with you? All Might interrupted the silence. Have no idea what you're talking about, said Midoriya. No matter what they asked, Izuku never gave them an honest reply, or a reply they were expecting to hear. It's simple really, the only reason he's replying like this is because he doesn't care. If you talk, it could reduce your sentence. All Might said angrily. Saying it could reduce his sentence angered him. Even if it gets reduced, do I even have a chance of becoming a hero anymore? Izuku replied with anger. When my sentence ends, I already know my chances of becoming a hero are over. And out of everyone, you should know that. He pointed at All Might. His eyes filled with anger just at the sight of him. The man who gave him a chance of becoming a hero is right here, but meeting his ex-successor in prison, Izuku expressed his sadness in anger, to which they felt it, even 𝗎𝗎𝗓. Although they believe he is guilty of his crimes, they still felt bad for him, slightly. Look, if you cooperate, everything could be fine in the 𝗵𝗃𝗄𝗏. You just want me to say something that fits your criteria of me having some connections with villains. I told you the truth. I have no idea what you're talking about and nothing made me join the villains. Izuku screamed, his eyes being wet were clearly visible, just like on the verge of crying. I suggest you leave, since all my answers will be the same, he exclaimed with sadness and anger in his voice. They understood they wouldn't get any answers from him, like he'd know anything. But this little meet-up with Izuku made Aizawa realize something. He wasn't faking it. I could see the sadness and tears in his eyes, he thought. The same as 2 months ago, that's right folks. Aizawa is starting to believe he's innocent. They stood up and wanted to leave, but one wanted to stay. 𝗎𝗎𝗓, we're leaving, said All Might. Let me talk with him, said 𝗎𝗎𝗓 in a serious tone. Aizawa and All Might looked at each other, thinking why she wants to do that, but then remembered they were dating. Still, Aizawa was scared that he might do something to her, but Izuku knew that they thought of it. I won't do anything to her, not like I can. All Might, he stated. The only one who understood his statement was All Might, while the others too were dumbfounded. But during the same time, All Might remembered something. After giving one for all to Izuku, he still could use the embers he had left. So he had a bad feeling that Izuku has those same embers left in him. It's not safe, he could do something. He won't. 𝗎𝗎𝗓 intervened. I know he won't. It was hard to believe, but they took her words and left them both to talk it out. You're pretty brave, you know. Izuku teased. I'm not brave, but I'm not stupid. I know if you cause a scene here it wouldn't be good for you. 𝗎𝗎𝗓 exclaimed. Her words sounded confident, but they weren't correct. Izuku was given special treatment here, plus he doesn't even stay here anymore. The only reason he won't try to hurt her is because she was his girlfriend. A loving girlfriend. So what do you want to talk about? Aizu asked politely. All this time, 𝗎𝗎𝗓 was trying to look Izuku in the eyes, but their eyesight never met, except for that 1 second. Too afraid to look me in the eye, she said. Say what you want. He replied, swinging in his chair. There was silence for a few seconds, where only Izuku's chair swinging was the only thing making sound. Finally, 𝗎𝗎𝗓 asked the question that was bothering her all this time after seeing the video. Tell me, she said, getting his attention. Did you even love me? Or just used me so no one would suspect you of being a villain? She blurted the words out. Izuku wasn't expecting such a question, nor was he ready to reply. But he knew how. I do, he replied. That caught her off guard. I do, as a reply she wasn't also expecting. But that made her feel something. He locked eyes with her and muttered. Look me in the eyes and try to see if I'm lying, he stated. No matter how much she looked, his eyes were filled with truth and honesty. This somewhat hurt 𝗎𝗎𝗎 in the feels. But did you love me? He said it in a somewhat angry tone. She stumbled back by his statement, her eyes getting wet, starting to get watery. He stood up and started to leave the proximity. I actually thought we were close enough so that you would be capable of realizing that the person on the video wasn't me. But that slap you gave me was enough to realize it wasn't true. She couldn't control it. Her eyes gave up and started crying like a literal car wash. Although Izuku wasn't looking at her, he knew she was crying. Even after her slap and her saying it's over, he still had some feelings for her. But that question she gave was like a trigger that forced him to make a decision. He decided to let her go, tell the others there's no point in coming here, they won't hear what they want. He closed the door on her, then leaving the area. It was hard, but he had to. After the ordeal, he was escorted back to Kokoro Mountain. Once arriving at the place, 𝗲𝗍 was already waiting at the entrance. Oliva did inform him that the meeting had started not too long ago. 𝗲𝗍 could clearly see that seeing those people changed him some bit. You okay? 𝗲𝗍 asked. Yeah, he replied softly. 𝗲𝗍 opened the metal gate and went inside with him, but not even talking one bit. Once they reached the house, he finally decided to speak. I made my decision. Izuku stated. I'll endure the hellish training months. Time flied really fast for Izuku. Well, not really, it was completely the opposite, to a point where he thought someone was deliberately slowing down time with a quirk in his presence. Most know that time feels like it's going slower while doing something you don't like. While Izuku technically didn't hate training these 5 months. The thing that made it feel like an eternity was the pain. Even the benefits of being a 𝗵𝗃 had its limits. If hell is truly a cruel place of endless suffering and pain for the damned, it would probably pale in comparison of what Izuku had to endure. He also didn't train for anything, he had a goal. More specifically, 𝗲𝗍 gave him one. You'll be ready once you can open the gate, said the red-haired boy. How long will it take? Izuku asked, pretty interested. We'll see. 𝗲𝗍 replied, cocking a determined smirk. Every Monday he'd test his strength on the gate. And after 5 months he finally succeeded. It would have probably taken a lot less longer if he only trained for physical strength. Fighting techniques and speed training are the 2 other factors were involved. Once the day came where he finally opened the steel gate, they had a feast to celebrate his success. Also, he had gained both weight and height during the PRD. Going from 5 feet 5 inches to 5 feet 11 inches, a hair off of reaching the 6 feet club, while also putting a lot of muscle mass, reaching an astounding 96 kg to 6 pounds. The green broccoli boy also got quite a few scars along the journey. But comparing the amount to 𝗲𝗍, it's like a newly recruited army soldier versus a man who served his entire life in the army, it's just implying there is no comparison. Once the feast was over, 𝗲𝗍 gave him a suggestion, more like a way to check his fighting capabilities. And the way is to fight his red-hair brother himself. Once hearing the suggestion, he wasn't scared or worried, he was surprised he can actually have a fight with him. He already knew he couldn't beat 𝗲𝗍 in a fair fight. His goal was to check how much has he improved. You sure you want to do this? 𝗲𝗍 asked in a cocky tone. Oh, you know I have to. Izuku replied confidently. 𝗲𝗍 was 5 feet 6 inches and weighs 71 kg 157 pounds. Izuku was 5 feet 11 inches and 96 kg 6 pounds. It's safe to say Izuku had the advantage in everything: size, weight, reach. Izuku had even started making fun of 𝗲𝗍 by overgrowing him in size, but quickly subdued this habit once he realized 𝗲𝗍 was one-upping his training. Either way, the fight started a few hours after the feast. Right before going into action, Izuku did the most important thing, warming up. Getting his body ready for a fated battle, he glanced to the right, seeing 𝗲𝗍 was just standing there, awaiting him to finish. 𝗲𝗍 was the one who told him it's a must to warm up before doing something serious. aka, something that requires effort. Aren't you going to warm up? Izuku asked, pretty ticked off. There's no need to. 𝗲𝗍 replied, looking at him with a seemingly blank expression. It did anger Izuku. Although 𝗲𝗍 is his teacher, it still hurts him to know 𝗲𝗍 isn't taking him seriously. This is actually 𝗲𝗍's plan. Right after Izuku opened the huge gate, Just for a moment Baki realized Izuku felt a sudden joy in having so much power. Seeing Izuku react to his statement made him realize his theory was true. Izuku was a bit drunk with power. Izuku got ready, his center of mass lowers, while his arm dangles from the ground. This a fighting stance Baki taught him. While Baki himself was just eyeing Izuku, before giving him a small grin and finally going into his stance. What? Izuku exclaimed curiously. To Izuku, what Baki is doing is utter suicide. The stance has too many openings to be effective in a fight. Stop looking down on me. Izuku grunted, unleashing his speed as he dashed straight to Baki. Aizu knew Baki is definitely way faster than him, so he faked a punch, then proceeding with a straight kick to the head. It actually connected with the target, to Izuku's surprise. It was a perfect hit. Izuku added his entire weight into it, but for some reason, Baki wasn't fazed one bit. Baki backed off. Izuku proceeded to dash right back to Baki to not let him escape. But in an unexpected occurrence, he fell straight down on his head. He tried to get right back up, but fell down halfway. Unknown to him why, but he was sinking deeply into unconsciousness. Just a reminder, Baki said to his barely conscious brother. Stay humble. With that, Izuku fell into sleep. Only after a few hours he finally woke up. He subconsciously looked around and noticed he's in his very own room. Baki was sitting a few feet away from him, reading a small book. What happened? Aizu asked curiously. Think, his brother said, still reading the book. Stay humble. The words Baki said to Izuku right before he passed out just resurfaced once hearing Baki speak. He understood by what he meant. He remembered how he felt once opening the steel gate. The sudden realization that with such strength he can do anything went to his head. In simple terms, he thought he's the SHT. While in fact he is, since as of now he's stronger than any you. A student. Heck, probably strong as a top hero. Yeah, it got to my head. Izuku uttered, finally understanding. Good to hear. Baki put the book down and gave him a smile. Since you can finally leave, what are you going to do? Baki asked. First things first, I need to visit my mother. Izuku stayed in contact with his mother during the past 5 months. Once he realized his mother still thought he's at you. It didn't surprise him at all. How would the media react that the prestigious 𝗧𝗼, quoted to be the best of the best hero school there is, would have actually had a villain in their midst? His old house wasn't that far, at least a 30-40 minute walk from here. But if there's anything he learned during training, it's patience. He left Kokoro Mountain and went on a stroll around the city. Luckily he wore a hoodie to hide his face. But it's not like he needs to. He wasn't exposed to the public's eye, nor does you. I know the warden let him walk free because of being a son of a very strong man. As he was about to turn a corner, not that far from his home, he unconsciously stopped in his tracks. He heard a girly voice just around the corner. What made him so surprised was the fact that the voice was Uraraku's. He also heard others blabbering. He immediately knew some of his old classmates are a few meters away. Having no clue what to do, he crouched down as they passed the corner, pretending to tie his shoelace so they don't get a clear look on his face. Having plot armor, it worked. They passed him without batting an eye. He sighed of relief, before continuing his walk to his destination. He reached his old apartment, eyeing it from a distance, before eventually going inside. Ring. Izuku rang the doorbell, patiently waiting for his mom to open up. From what he knows, she always has the guest waiting, some even leave before she opens. In a second. Top 10 lies. After like a whole minute, she finally opened the door. Wanting to say, "Can I help you?" her words got stuck in her mouth once she realized it's Izuku. Izuku. Inko hugged him very tightly. Hey mom, Izuku replied in a happy voice. What happened to you? She asked curiously for his sudden change in appearance. I'll tell you inside. It's been a while since he was back at his old house, but once he saw barely anything changed, not even his old room, perplexed him. They sat at the living room, his mom made some sandwiches and tea. So how's school? OSHT. He wasn't expecting this right away. He tried to think of a lie. He tried to, but he realized it's best to just say the whole truth to her. Mom, I found out who my father is. He said seriously, 𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧𝗧. She blurted. Mom, never mind that, what happened to you? Did you hit 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏? She tried to change the topic. Izuku smiled abruptly, clearly understanding she's trying to hide something. Inko picked up the cup of tea, drinking it in hopes it would ease her tension. Maybe, guess you could call it 𝗵𝗃𝗃𝗏. Izuku exclaimed, smiling. She almost spilled her tea by hearing that. Baki told me you know everything. So guess you should know that this could only have happened due to negative emotions. He said in a saddened tone. She knew, she definitely knew, but couldn't believe it. Before you ask anything, I'll fill you in with what happened. Izuku stated. Without missing a beat, he explained everything. How 𝗬𝗧𝗏 cheated, how the students blamed him, how he finally fixed the whole SHT of a lie he had to go through, even finding a new girl only to be accused as a traitor and being sent to Tartarus. He didn't miss the little details as well. He explained the only reason he is out of prison is because of his father, and Baki has been training him for 5 months straight. Her heart took everything without breaking down into pieces, but her emotions couldn't. She let the tears out after hearing the whole fiasco he had to go through. Clearly, she now despised the whole school. Inko knew that it wouldn't work out with 𝗬𝗧𝗏 the moment Izuku showed up with her at home, but with 𝗵𝗧𝗏 a family would have been definitely possible. But the heartbreaking thing is Izuku being a fugitive. Granted, he looks a bit different. If he changes his hairstyle and hair color, most wouldn't recognize him. He told Inko she lives with Baki now, and also thinks it's for the best. If they somehow realize he escaped, the first place to look would presumably be his old home. No one would suspect Kokoro Mountain. After a long chat he left. He walked through the alley, contemplating about everything. Leave me alone. A girl screamed, getting Izuku's attention. He turned to his left, seeing a female, somewhere close to his age, getting picked on by 3 thugs in an alley. By their faces, Izuku knew what they intended to do with her. Their lust was quite high. The thug closest to her had a knife at his hand, while one of them had a knife as a hand. You know we like girls who try to resist. The thug said creepily. Izuku was having none of it. He knew he had to save her. He went to confront them, but he stepped on something, getting their attention. You want something? The thugs tried to scare him by pointing their knife at him. It would have worked way before, but this time, it only made him happier. Izuku's body was itching for a fight. He stepped closer, not intimidated by their threats whatsoever. I don't want nothing, just to beat your butt and that's it. Izuku said sarcastically. It hit a nerve to their leader. He ran to Izuku, his knife pointed straight at him. Izuku realized something, and that is that he's way better than he thought. It felt like an eternity before the thug actually reached him. He thought dodging a knife would also be thrilling, but it was just so slow it was astounding to him. He dodged the knife effortlessly, before countering it with a knee to the chest. Izuku underestimated everything. His speed, reaction time, and physical strength. His knee broke the ribs of the thug like it was butter. In essence, he killed the man, if he is by some miracle is still breathing, since the broken ribs definitely pierced his lungs and probably the heart. Internal bleeding will finish him off. The old Izuku would have apologized if he accidentally punched a man, let alone killed one, but he doesn't feel nothing for this man. No sympathy, nothing. The 2 others weren't safe either. Seeing their leader fall down to the ground like a dead man, they tried to hurry off the scene. Of course, Izuku didn't let them. Since even holding back, he could still kill people, he needed to aim at a part where it wouldn't cause too much damage, the jaw. He almost seemingly teleported in front of the running thugs, decking them both to the jaw, falling down before even realizing what happened. You okay? He asked the frightened girl. Stop right there. Another voice interrupted her. It was another female voice. Girls just can't get away from Izuku. He wanted to book it, since there's a chance it could have been heroes, but he froze. The voice was 𝗵𝗧𝗏 at the corner of his eye. He spotted the big trio or the big 3. They had their school clothes on, since presumably school had ended not long ago. What he did also spot was 𝗵𝗧𝗏 being different. She looked a lot more livelier than once he met her 5 months ago. Mirio and Tamaki were right behind her, having their guards up. Heck, he wouldn't mind fighting them, but he can't risk of being exposed, or even 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 seeing him. Luckily, the chances of them speculating that he is Izuku is close to none. Leave the girl alone. 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 blurted. Wait, you're wrong. He helped me. The bad guys are the ones on the ground. The girl finally spoke up. Hearing her words, they all dropped their guards. Izuku relaxed, knowing they won't try anything stupid. As he was about to leave the alley, the girl grabbed his shoulder gently. Thank you, she said, smiling positively. Izuku didn't know what to say, nor he could. There's a chance they would remember his voice, so he just turned his head a bit to her and nodded before leaving. He turned his head, barely enough for the girl to see some part of his face and his hair, while the big three couldn't. The girl noticed green hair, a rare hair color she hasn't seen actually. Unknown to Izuku, he was her savior. I'm back, baby. I think having saved a girl from some perverted thugs, and meeting his ex in the process, this day had ups and downs for the now very strong boy, albeit being quirkless. He finally found out where his limits stand when getting into a fight with a thug in the streets. Even when he tried to hold back, he literally killed the people, or injured them enough to be hospitalized for months. Baki did tell me we are way stronger than normal people. He held a quarter at the tip of his 3 fingers, ripping it in half like paper with barely any effort. Just what the hell is a 𝗵𝗃? 𝗵𝗧𝗧𝗏 being their signified class had ended, so he doesn't really want to stay outside, risking himself getting caught. Still, he wanted to get at least something for the day. He went into a coffee shop not far from 𝗂𝗂𝗏 Mountain. Being already 6 feet and somewhat bulky, he definitely stood out in the long line awaiting to order something. Jesus, that hood barely fits him, he must be packing muscles underneath. A woman behind Izuku spoke in a seducing voice. Bet all that is muscle is just for show and no go. The man closest to her spoke up, presumably her boyfriend. He wasn't mad at the man's statement, he just tried to show off to his girlfriend that he's not afraid of anything. He wanted to pay no mind to them, but he got an intriguing idea in his head. Wanna test that theory? Izuku turned around, his emerald eyes radiated intensity right at the man. That's all it took for him to shut up and practically start shivering uncontrollably, almost seemingly standing right behind his girlfriend, eyes not even daring to look up. It was actually funny, the man looked to be in his mid-20s while Izuku is still only 16. Guess a 𝗵𝗃 also has a different aura than most. He thought, waiting for the man in front to finish his order. His turn came, so he ordered 2 coffees to go. While patiently waiting for them to be made, he got a bad feeling in his stomach, a very bad feeling. Someone was watching him, seated in the right of Izuku. If it would have been some stranger, he'd flat out ignore him, but it just had to be him, it had to 𝗵𝗃. Aizawa, I know this is the closest coffee shop to you. But come on. Shouldn't you be at school doing some paperwork? Izuku practically screamed in his head. This was a bad scenario for him, the only thing he could think of was being caught. Still, would Aizawa even recognize him anymore? The hair and his face didn't have enough change to be seen as a whole different person, but counting his body structure and height, there's no way he would think it's him. Did I mutter or something and he saw it? Being a student of Aizawa for almost 1 semester, he found out a lot about him. Being in his presence almost every day, you'd find out a lot about a man. During that 1 semester, he found out Aizawa likes analyzing a person's instinctive hobbies, just like his mumbling. There's no way that's him, right? Aizawa said to himself quietly, hoping Izuku would not hear. The only person I ever known to do that is Izuku. Having been trying to fix his mumbling habit all his life, he completely neglected his other one, which even as of now, has no idea he's been doing it almost every day. Cracking his knuckles without the help of his other hand. Mumbling was already a rare habit on its own, but cracking one's knuckles with one hand is something I only ever saw Izuku do. Aizawa thought. It's kinda hard to explain, but it's my weird habit. You know when you try to grip your hand slowly but also applying strength in the process you hear some sort of a crack noise. Is it just me or? I'm just paranoid because I haven't drank coffee for over 5 minutes, right? He blamed it on his lack of coffee consumption. Then again, should I inform Nizu about this? Aizawa watched the 6-foot-tall man leave the building, holding his coffee in his hands as he left. He's not following me good. Izuku was relieved. Sparing no time, he immediately started walking home, not trying to drop his precious coffee. Aizawa was still watching him, thinking of what to do. The author forced a dust wind to appear where Izuku stood, strong enough to force his hood down, revealing his appealing green hair. Aizawa's eyes almost shot out of his eye sockets. He was ready to spring into action, but with the sudden change of events, he couldn't. Izuku just vanished from his view like he was never there. All he saw was a blur in the moment. It was definitely otherworldly acceleration, since the cracks on the pavement below showed his explosive leg strength. Once his hood fell down, Izuku's hair wasn't the trigger to Aizawa's actions, but the freckles were. Green hair is definitely rare, but green hair and freckles is something undoubtedly only Izuku has in Japan and possibly the world. Izuku ran home at superhuman speeds. He thought he had no time to open the huge metal gate, so he jumped over the wall. Guess he forgot where his limits stand once again. He ran back into the mansion, desperately looking for Baki to tell him the bad possible news. He wasn't at home, which sucked, so he tried calling him. No response from him either. After a draining amount of calls, he finally picked up. What is it? The amount of phone calls he saw made him realize it's something urgent. Aizawa saw me, I think, he replied fastly. Your homeroom teacher. Baki wanted to make sure he heard it correctly. What the hell do I do? Izuku was scared. He was hidden quite well most of the times, that DMN wind just had to mess it up. Nevertheless, Izuku had no clue what to do. We do nothing. Baki blankly replied. Shouldn't we do something? Aizu practically screamed to the phone. Trust me, you don't need to do anything. He cocked a small smirk, his innocent smile was astounding. Izuku didn't get any answers, since Baki just hung up like that. Izuku threw his phone onto his head, walking all around his room nervous, thinking of what the hell to actually do. I'm AF idiot. He screamed loudly. I should have just gone home right when I saw Nijire. KKDU. I'm an idiot. Nizu told himself off. I'm a true F idiot. He repeated. He grabbed his head in shame of what he had just did. He just destroyed an innocent kid's life. No, if All Might gave him his quirk, then it means he destroyed the up-and-coming new symbol of Peace's life. Who put this at the entrance gate? He asked himself. Mere moments ago, a student came into his office saying he found a box at the entrance gate. Naturally, it could have been some sort of 𝗬𝗲𝗎 to some other student, but the big text right on the box made it clear it was for. Hope this shines some light to you, Nizu. Was written on the box. Having opened the box, there was a flash drive inside. It could have been some virus which could have infiltrated the school's defense system, so he used his laptop. Upon opening it, all he saw was a simple short video, labeled, You messed up, Nizu. Does this person have some vendetta against me? He said as he clicked play. It was a recording from a security camera on the first floor of a building. The see-through glass gave a clear view of the alley outside for the camera. The only thing that mostly stood out was the metal door outside. It was presumably a back entrance or exit. Okay. Nizu had no idea what to make of this. Watching the video, he never expected anything from it. It was a simple prank in his mind, since nothing intriguing was coming up in the video. Man, he was so wrong. Suddenly, in the midst of his boredom of the video, a black-purple mist formed outside. Now he was intrigued, he knew that purple mist from anywhere. Kurogi, he mumbled to himself before stopping midway. Izuku. Almost screamed his name loudly. Izuku stepped out of the purple mist, holding pieces of paper in his hands. The date of the recording was shown at bottom. The date matched perfectly, the same day, the same hour as he allegedly stole those files. Right before he left. He thought. If anything, this video gave Nizu even more proof Izuku had did it, not finding any conclusion as to why the box had such a personal message to specifically for him. Only, now the most intriguing part surfaced onto the screen with shock-induced eyes. Nizu watched Izuku's body was starting to melt. The colorless goo dropping down from him like it wasn't sticky enough to hold on onto his body. Then, as everything cleared, it turned out it wasn't Izuku, but the shapeshifter Toga in disguise. Once 𝗎𝗠 could finally comprehend what had just occurred onto the screen, he fell deep in regret. The video wasn't done there. As Toga returned to her normal form, she opened the only door present in the video, going inside happily jogging up and down, and then 𝗬𝗠𝗠𝗠𝗧𝗏 followed. "I'm an idiot. I'm a true idiot," he told himself off. Who put this at the entrance gate? He asked no one but himself. The picture became clearer as to why Izuku gave up one for all willingly. Even though, as of now, 𝗎𝗠 knew Izuku must have been in a huge amount stressed due to this false accusation. Izuku wasn't faking those pure, innocent smiles, and that became even more frightening for the school principal. He painstakingly understands that a simple apology isn't going to cut it, not even close. If Izuku even had a minuscule amount of hope left thinking it was some sort of cruel joke, that hope must have left his soul long ago, as it has been over 5 months till he was sent to prison. He just ended a child's career, scratch that, the future symbol of peace's career. For an animal with a quirk which made him more intelligent than even the most smartest humans, it was a huge defeat since he's not the one who found out the truth, and there's even a chance the guy who sent him the video doesn't have a quirk similar to 𝗎𝗠. Yes, he was defeated by someone else in a contest of brains, but the principal knew this isn't the time to feel bad about himself. He did feel like 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏 because he was defeated in a game he is a 𝗵𝘃𝗧𝗏𝗏𝗧, but that begged the white rat question well, if it feels this bad to lose just once, how does it feel to lose everything at once? His quirk, his future, his girlfriend. It was actually funny since Izuku tried to hide their relationship for a bit, but 𝗎𝗠 figured it out right as they started dating. Still, there is a chance the video was edited, but the thought about it made 𝗎𝗠 feel like 𝗧𝗏𝗧𝗏𝗏 once again. I doubt my student would ever look at the same ever again, but I'll try everything to fix it. He thought in determination. The end did catch his eye. Both 𝗬𝗠𝗠𝗠𝗧𝗏 and Toga entered inside the building parallel of where the surveillance camera was recording from. All he had to do was to narrow it down. Accounting who 𝗎𝗠 is, it's a piece of cake. The building where the camera was recording was a shop. Because of the counter, he narrowed it down quite fast. It was a shoe shop, a woman's shoes shop by the amount of shoes residing inside. It wouldn't take long when he pinpoints where the camera actually is. He still had a question: who was the man who gave him the surveillance video? Izuku's imprisonment wasn't released to the public's eye, for safety reasons. It might have been one of the students, but the box was put right next to the entrance gate, so he dismissed that theory. It must have been someone with some connections after all. How did he find this video? 𝗎𝗠 gave his thoughts out. It was definitely a man with connections, a lot of connections. You could call it the benefits of being a billionaire. What should we do? I'm bored. Himiko Toga squealed in the barely lit room bar. Quiet down. Shigaraki hissed. The villain's hideout, or even if you could call it that, it was just a bar. 𝗬𝗠𝗠𝗠𝗧𝗏, Shigaraki, Twice, Dabi, Spinner, Mr. Compress and Magna, everyone was present in the scene. Having stayed low for a while, they wanted some action back into their life, any type of action, to at least get their bodies pumping. But I'm really bored, forcibly stopped in mid-wording, a huge gust of wind blew right into her. The force was huge, being strong enough to push her back a few feet. In fact, every one of them were pushed back slyly. They had to take a second to comprehend what just happened, but it was too late. All Might crashed their party, showing his taunting presence to all of them. But unluckily for the villains, he did not come alone. 𝗵𝗃𝗄𝗎 appeared right from behind All Might, ready to test his new move on the bunch of evildoers. Chain prison. Some time back found ya. 𝗎𝗠 exclaimed in joy. The white mini bear finally succeeded in pinpointing the area where the recording originated from. It came to a shock that it was in fact very close to you. For personal knowledge, it was a few blocks from Kokoro Mountain. After this, all that's left is to let Izuku free. Without a doubt, the hardest part will be meeting him again. I just hope he hasn't changed that much. That had to be Izuku. Aizawa thought to himself. But his body structure and height were completely different from before. For a measly 5 months, such a change wasn't seen as being possible for Aizawa. But who else could that be? The green hair and the freckles, not to mention him cracking his hand like that. He thought. It's definitely him. What he saw, undoubtedly he knew it was him. But also that raised some questions for the man. There's 19 months left till Izuku would be set free. He thought at first that he got out because of good behavior, but the prison he was sent into doesn't follow those kind of rules. Did he escape? That was the only possible solution he could come up with. But it was stated even All Might couldn't escape the prison, even without quirk canceling cuffs. And his solution was quickly brushed off. The thought of the warden simply letting him go didn't pop up, since, is there a reason he would be let go like that? Even if someone is proven innocent, they are still to be seated in there until further notice. Then his phone started ringing. The person who has his number is 𝗍𝗬, only 𝗍𝗬, so he knew who called. Perfect timing couldn't be any better. Maybe he did escape. After all, Izuku is smart. He could ask 𝗍𝗬 to inform Tartarus about Izuku, to ask them if he had left. Luckily, there was doubt in his mind. The last time they met was 5 months ago, and how they met and how he reacted to them was astounding. The sadness in Izuku's eyes wasn't fake that day. He was truly emotionally distressed. He has no idea as of now if Izuku truly is innocent or not. He doesn't know if it is right or wrong to inform 𝗍𝗬 about the boy. Hello. Aizawa picked up. Took you long enough. 𝗍𝗬 hates people who pick up on the last second. What is it? Aizawa asked. I just got a lead on where the League of Villains reside, and will need you if things take a turn for the worse. 𝗍𝗬 replied. All right. He replied quietly. 𝗍𝗬, I have to tell you something important. Aizawa decided it's right in form about him. Tell me after we raid them. Since I also have a surprise for you at the end. 𝗍𝗬 cocked a smile, but it's not like Aizawa could see it, they were on the phone, goddammit. He agreed to tell him after the raid, since actually he still had doubts of informing about Izuku. Maybe after the raid he'll have the mentality to say it. And also, he has to be ready. Raids can easily go wrong and few deaths might happen. He knows he's needed for the raid, he has to be in his right mind, no distractions, since if things actually take a turn for the worst, lives might be at stake back to the present, but it didn't. Chain prison. Ready to test his move, he sprouted out his wood tentacles, engulfing every single member in its tight grip, immobilizing all of them. All Might. The entire League of Villains gasped in disbelief. They weren't ready for anything like this to happen. Nice going, 𝗵𝗃. Without you, we'd have more trouble. He did his signature laugh. I'm just happy to help. 𝗵𝗃 humbly replied. How the hell did you find us? We stayed low for months. Shigaraki asked, pretty pissed off. Well, we have 𝗍𝗬 to thank for. His skills let us pinpoint your location. All Might said, signaling the others below that it's a mission success. It was a gamble to raid them at such time where the sun is still at its brightest, but luckily everything worked out just fine. Actually, the others below felt a little disappointed. They just raided the League of Villains, yet nothing interesting occurred. But it didn't matter, they captured one of the most feared group of villains in Japan, all in a day's work. Lifting every League of Villains member, 𝗵𝗃 gently let them down below for the others to take care of. He did not let go them of his grasp, since a massacre might happen if he did. Quirk canceling cuffs exist, and they worked like a charm on the 𝗧𝗪𝙢𝗎. Most would think it's unfair, but it's not. They're villains for God's sake. This is unfair. Unfair, unfair, unfair. Shigaraki preached. Life is unfair, take this as a lesson. 𝗍𝗬 commented. He noticed 𝗍𝗬 hearing from All Might that he's the one who planned all of this. Having all the pent-up rage inside, he cursed 𝗍𝗬 for everything. You midget, once I get out I'll kill you. He ratted hard. Like you'll have a chance, handyman. Triggering Shigaraki, all of the League of Villains were escorted into a truck to be sent to prison for good, all except one. 𝗧𝗏 Himiko Toga to the interrogation room. 𝗍𝗬 demanded the officers. Naomasa was present on the scene, having been the one who called for backup, adding a team of armed police officers into the mix. He heard 𝗍𝗬 call Toga to the interrogation room, and a lot clicked in his mind. Wait, don't tell me, he got forcibly cut off by 𝗍𝗬. I know what you're thinking, and yes, that is the reason. 𝗍𝗬 answered. Oh, I'm getting special treatment. Is it because I'm a girl? Toga jokingly asked 𝗍𝗬. Believe it that way. Back to 𝗧𝗵𝗵𝗲 lying down on his bed, having his hands placed on his face, he was scared at what's to come. As of now, he wasn't in his right mind. The stress was killing him. He still has no idea if Izuku actually noticed it was him or not. What was that noise? While deep in thought, he heard something faint in the distance. He heard it. He heard All Might's devastating wall-breaking punch, even from such a huge distance. But it was faint, so faint he couldn't make it out what it was. He didn't care at all of what he heard, immediately going back to his existential crisis. Toga's interrogation, "Can you still keep that form?" Nizu worryingly asked for All Might. "After getting my quirk back from the villain, I've never been better. My time limit also increased exponentially." Those words were enough to relieve Nizu, but also hurt him at the same time. "Yeah," Nizu muttered under his breath. "But why do you need me to accompany you?" All Might had zero clue as to why. "You'll see," he said as he opened a door, both of them heading inside. Inside was 𝗬𝗍𝗧𝗍, Izuku and of course, the main dish, Toga, hands handcuffed to the metal table for safety reasons. 𝗬𝗍𝗧𝗍 was the only one who knew why she was being interrogated, but the two others were clueless, although Toga was Oswell. Luckily, this is the moment that will shine some light into everyone. Having a laptop in his hands, he placed it on the metal table. Izuku and All Might were clueless as ever. "What do you want from me?" Toga hissed, uninterested. "First, let's start with this. The amount of crimes the League of Villains committed is enough to send you all to life in prison, no chance of parole." Nizu commented. "Kinda expected that." She frowned, visible sadness in her eyes, but it's not like they could see it. She bowed her head down. "But you're in a special position actually," Nizu said, making All Might and Izuku wondering why. "Although you are a member of the group, you haven't been reported to have killed anyone, mostly only knocking out civilians and taking some of their BLD, Nizu added. But no one can ignore the fact you were an actual member of such a group." Nizu added even more info. She knew where this was going. All this sympathy talk isn't going to change anything. Getting caught already sealed her fate. "I've looked into your past. It's no wonder you became a villain. Everyone can crack if they had such a life." Nizu kept going. "You may be a villain, but you're not evil, are you? You only became a villain because everyone around you viewed you as one." She doesn't like talking about her past. It's a controversial topic. All this babbling coming from Nizu was like a trigger to her. Her anger was rising by every word that was coming out from Nizu's mouth. "You're only 16, yet heroes had trouble fighting you in the past. You have potential, Toga." "Potential? Stop talking like you know what I went through. You're all the same as everyone else," Toga cracked, letting her emotions out to the others in the room, her eyes getting watery already. "I may not know what you went through, but I definitely know someone who is going through something far worse than you," Nizu exclaimed. His statement got Toga in a state of surprise. "What are you even trying to say to me?" She let it out. Her tears fell down from her face. "I'm giving you a chance to enroll to you." His statement not only surprised Toga, but everyone else in the room. But Nizu, All Might spoke up. "I get it that she's a villain, but she's not evil." Nizu replied. "I know you wanted to be a hero. Trust me, I did my digging." It was funny. Nizu got a list of the kids who wanted to enroll to you. Last year, and her name was on the list. "I want a powerful quirk so I can be a hero." Toga, age 5, squealed in excitement. "Then let's hope it's a neat one." Her mother replied. But it wasn't a neat one, not to her mother's eyes, not to everyone's eyes. A quirk that only works if you ingest human BLD was seen as something a villain would have. Just like that, her mother and father changed for the worse. They wanted to get rid of her, put her up for adoption, but it wasn't that simple. Rules stated you could only put a child for adoption if you couldn't take care of it. Basically, if the family had money problems, they easily could. Both her mother and father having high-paying jobs, they had no means of getting rid of her. Her friends, teachers, everyone turned on her. Even the small part of the city she lived in changed. Rumors started to spread around the block. Everyone would either try ignore her or make fun of her. Heck, even elderly believed those lies. It got to a point where at the end of the school year, when summer was around the corner, she got a letter from the school saying she got expelled. No reasoning whatsoever, they just expelled her and didn't say why. That's when it reached a breaking point. She ran away from home, to her parents' delight. Living in the streets, mugging others for money. It wasn't a lie she had talent. Since the first time she held a knife, she was already efficient with it. Not long after, she got into contact with the League of Villains. She had no choice but to join. Everyone viewed her as a villain, so she played that part quite well. "It's been my dream to join you," Toga muttered. Her crying made it more authentic. "You can if you want to, it's your choice." 𝗧𝗍 said. "Of course I want to," she stated. "Then welcome to you, 𝗧𝗵𝗃 𝗧𝗵𝗃. Just like that she got accepted into 𝗧𝗏, the same school she adored to go, even when everyone said she had no chance. It felt like a dream to her, but who's to blame her? A villain having a chance to become a hero is unheard of. All of the others in the room were in disbelief that she got into this way. They wanted to ask questions if this is a good thing to do, but knowing it's 𝗧𝗍 who made the call, it must be. "Then you first trial begins now," said 𝗧𝗍. What? Like right now? Her eyes still watery from the emotional trauma of having to remember her past. "Don't worry, it's just one question I want to ask you." 𝗧𝗍 opened his laptop. "But I want the honest truth." That's where the laptop came into play. He opened the laptop, showing her the video from 5 months ago that supposedly is Izuku. "Is this you in the video?"